And we're live.
We are live. Welcome, everybody. Thursday night. Actually, this feels great because we are back with another unprecedented, surprising, and irrational PM in the PM. That's right. Pong and Mav in the PM. Back again, according to Jim Ryan. We are all those things and more. Well, no, Jim actually doesn't know who the hell we are. But anyways, he did say that. We're going to talk about that. So I had to use that in the intro because that was amazing. Today, we got a lot to get into. But yes, we are back. Chat, thank you all for joining us. Again, Thursday, April the 6th. Of course, last week, we had to miss due to this guy right here and work. But it didn't feel normal last week. I didn't get to talk with my brother from another, Mav, here until Xbox Ultimate. But it's not the same. And it's a two-man show. It's just like Saturdays with Steel. We just get that catch-up time where we just BS and have a great time together and talk about what we've been doing. So let's get down to business, Matt, because we do have some topics to get into tonight. People have missed us. It's been a couple weeks now, and I know that you've been playing with a lot of leather, some balls, and some sticks lately.
Yes,
so,
I didn't know where you were. I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, how did you know, Pong?
Caitlin hits me up in the DMs.
Yeah. I've been really heavy into MLB The Show, as you've seen me playing with my leather balls and sticks. Playing with my wooden bats. I've been really into it. I'm really into baseball right now in general. Like I kind of getting sucked into watching all the games and stuff like that too. So excited for baseball season. As my Mavs have been tanking the season, I've kind of migrated now towards baseball season is here, right? So first time I've really been really excited about baseball season since the early 2010s, But it's besides that, I've been playing a little bit of this and that. Played a little bit of Warzone with Kate last week. And let's see what else I've been playing. I saw something last night. I hopped on Iron Brigade for a little bit, and because of the way the 360 thing shows up, Pong Soul showed up there and said you were online on Iron Brigade. Brigade. I was like, hey, this man knows. This man knows. The old school Double Fine Xbox Live Arcade game, originally known as Trenched.
Yep.
Is a little gem that has made its way into Game Pass, so that's the good
Not
game.
Not available for sale either. Double Fine put that out.
It is strange.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
But I don't know what's with that arrangement. However, glad that it's in Game Pass because that's a game that's kind of been missing. Unless you already owned it, whatever. But I encourage people to try that. I did stream a little bit of it last night after I watched the ID at Xbox show. Nice. Just to kind of show the chat what that game was all about. But yeah, that's it, man. Just that work stuff as usual and living life. But how you been?
Busy as always. Again, we don't even need to say it anymore. It is what it is. I've been gaming wise all over the place. Again, weird spots, still rocking obviously on Mass Effect Andromeda. But getting ready for Age of Wonders 4, I am so excited for that game. I have it pre-ordered now. I've got the deluxe edition pre-ordered. Looking forward to that game. So I hop back into Age of Wonders Planetfall, which is a spin-off of the main series. The main series has not been on console before. So Age of Wonders 4 is going to be the first. Age of Wonders is a fantasy strategy tactics turn-based style game. Planetfall is sci-fi version of it. So I hop back into Planetfall because I actually own the DLC and all that kind of stuff, and I haven't played it in a while. Wound up with 140. It ends after 150 turns, so it's set up like Civ. If you guys have played Civ, you'll understand what these games are. It's set up a lot like Civ. But these end after 150 turns, and I wound up winning on the 147th turn because I launched the ultimate weapon that I had built. So I had a blast with that. So I've been getting ready with that. And then I've also hopped in Everspace again. Everspace 2 is coming out on PC. It actually launches this week, I think, in the Game Pass PC. And then it's coming to console later this year. And Everspace is freaking cool. It's a roguelike, but the developers actually talked about Everspace 2 more like it's Diablo in space because you get loot and all that kind of stuff, but you make run after run. It's a gorgeous game. And I hopped into Everspace a while back, but I haven't been, back to it again. So I did that. I had some fun with that. Popped in a little Gears Tactics as well. Rocked out some Gears Tactics. Had a blast with that. And then I also picked up, because I got the hype is starting to roll with the videos because they keep throwing out videos, Tekken. I haven't played Tekken in a long time. So but I'm watching these videos and I'm like, man, I gotta get back into Tekken. Well, Tekken 7 so happens to be the ultimate edition. I forget what they call it, but they've got the big edition. It's got every single piece of DLC in it. It was on sale for $17, $18. I asked Steele if it was worth it. He said he'd do it, but he did warn me. He's like, but just so you know, the graphics don't look great on console. And I'm like, yeah, but I've watched it and it looks pretty good. I hit Steele up in the DMs after like 2 matches, and I'm like, you weren't wrong. I'm like, this is like the characters are at like 720p. Like they are so blurry. I'm like, what the hell happened here? I can't believe they've not done an update. But anyways, still great game. I love Tekken. I love how it plays. Like I said, I describe it as like the heavy fighter out of the group. Every move feels like you got weight behind it. Like I really enjoy Tekken. So I've been getting back into that. And then I also tried some Loop Hero, which just dropped onto Game Pass, which I was excited for because I've been hearing great things about this game for the past, I think it's been almost 2 years now. And it finally dropped into Game Pass. Of course, published by Devolver. And Devolver never misses for me, at least. So I was so excited to see this pop in. Man, now I understand. Another addicting little game. It doesn't make any sense why it's addicting. It's an auto battler, so it's not like you're controlling the battles, but you're just basically in this loop building out the world. You collect these cards from your battles that you then place into the world that become things, whether they're monster lairs or mountains or forests. And your character, which is, basically going back to like, oh, I don't even know, probably before 8-bit, is wandering this loop, and it's fighting monsters, and then you get loot. You get weapons, you get rings, you get armor, you get your classic RPG, and you can equip them, and the game pauses and you equip them, and then you send your character on back on the adventure, and it keeps going around this loop. Just an addicting game. So I've been having fun with that as well. And then, like you said, Mav, Iron Brigade also dropped. Had to try it out. It's a game I actually never even played.
Oh, really? It's your style of game.
I know, tower defense style game. I had never played it. I'd seen it, but I'd never tried it before. So I was excited to pop into that. And it's got the Double Fine flavor to it. Yeah. It's got humor. It's got great characters. It's definitely a 360 arcade game.
Yes, it is. The gameplay still feels solid though, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It feels really solid. And obviously you throw in there that it's got, you're basically in a mech and you get to customize the mech with different weapons, throw in the tower defense pieces to it. And I was having a really good time playing around with some Iron Brigade. So like I said, folks, when I said I was all over the place, I've been all over the place this week in gaming. So a bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, man, that's been about it, man. That's been
Yeah.
about it. I miss talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's been even if it's only been a week, it feels like it's been like a month.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes. You know, but
It
we've also
does.
had like I mean, today there's been some juicy stuff happening, but it's been like a very light couple weeks for just gaming
Yeah,
news in
overall,
general.
yeah.
You know, it's just slight little updates on the ABK acquisition, little some rumors for PlayStation here and there regarding things and some leaks, but like gaming wise, in the especially on the Xbox front, the last few weeks have been kind of barren, right? But we also have lots of games coming soon,
Yeah.
so that may
The
be
most important
why.
part.
Yeah, but I still think we're on the cusp of some stuff here, and maybe a tweet from Jez Corden earlier, kind of preempted that a little bit, saying that Ubisoft Plus might be hitting console imminently on Xbox anyway. So we got lots of stuff to talk about. This, I mean, obviously, if you guys clicked on the thumbnail, you see the uh, juicy thumbnail that Kate made for us. That was at Pong Soul's request. So we're gonna have some juicy stuff to talk about for sure. But yeah, it's been a while, man.
It's been a while. And we do have to hop. You, me, and Kate have to hop into Call of Duty. I did re-download it, so we can play the
part two. I don't even know what it's called
or whatever the hell it is. I don't remember what it is.
It's like a raid, kind of, but it's only for a few people. You know,
right?
So
right. But we are gonna have to hop into that and do that. I did get that downloaded. My external hard drive crapped out.
Oh,
so I'm back to managing memory.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Uninstalling, reinstalling. Oh, and with me, that's bad news because obviously on my external, I had all the older games on there, so it was very simple. And even moving them back and forth was 3 times, 4 times.
So you were probably playing like Mass Effect Andromeda off of that thing, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
So you had to re-download it?
Yeah, I had to re-download it, and I had to figure out how I was going to fit all this stuff. And obviously, Ghostwire Tokyo's coming, so I had to make room for that because pre-install. So I wanted to make sure I had room for that in there. So yeah, I've been moving stuff, deleting stuff, re-adding stuff. It's been crazy. But games like Planetfall, which I was playing off the external, I had to re-download on the internal now. That kind of stuff is just whatever. It is what it is.
If only there were more storage options available for us on Xbox.
Yeah, at least we got one more. Right? Was it Western Digital?
Yeah, Western Digital. Yeah. So, but I'm hoping that opens the floodgates.
Because it's bad, and I'm old enough to remember when Jason Ronald came out and said, "Don't worry, there'll be third party." More third party storage options for you down the road. And I believe that contract was only for a year to Seagate for the first year of the series consoles. At least that's what we had heard originally. And we've seen nothing. And then all of a sudden, I think it was early this week, Western Digital finally came out with one which was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, it was like
man, oh man,
20, $30 cheaper, something like that.
Yeah.
So
we need some more options for sure.
Yeah. But maybe it's on the cusp. We'll see.
Hopefully. I'm not gonna hold my breath because again, I understand. Like they don't have Series X's. It's still hard to find Series X's right now, right? It's very hard to find.
Yeah,
so I just don't see third parties jumping all over it.
Sales wise, when we talked before, like console hardware sales and stuff, and I had done the percentages, crunched the math on, Xbox and PlayStation this generation and stuff, and I had come to this was a few months back, right? And I had come to the realization that it was about 58%, 42%, right? At the time for PlayStation 5s versus Series consoles, which was a huge leap over last gen, making up a lot of ground because last gen it was closer to 70-30, right? So they had made up quite a bit of ground, like a 12-point swing there. And that's obviously Sony wouldn't be happy about that. But as of the last few months, PlayStation's closed so much ground because they've had availability and Xbox hasn't. Plus, also you had the God of Wars and stuff like that happening where PlayStation didn't have. I mean, Xbox didn't have a lot of games last year, first party. So they've actually closed the gap now again to where it's I did the numbers the other day, and it's back to like 62-38%
Right.
now.
Yep.
So that's yeah, 62-38 compared to uh what was 58-42. So that's about a 4-point swing percentage wise back to
Yeah.
PlayStation, which it doesn't sound like, oh my god, that's huge, but that kind of stuff matters. And I feel like though it could be because Xbox is stockpiling consoles for their wave of games about to hit. We see the Diablo boxes out there spotted in the
Yep.
wild, stuff like that. We know Starfield, they're probably doing something. So I think this year's going to be strong for Xbox, but that's just consoles, right? Besides the fact, like, it's not
Right.
the end all be all, but it is
No.
a
No.
sign of what the availability, at least, of what's going on right now.
And we got a report this week too, Mav, of monthly active users, right? And Xbox is still leading monthly active users, which is
Yeah,
again goes
which
to
is
show
why consoles aren't everything,
right
right?
the power of the ecosystem overall, even
Yeah.
with Sony gaining ground again console wise. Microsoft has maintained almost 1.5% lead on monthly active users, and the report actually came out because somebody did an article, I believe it was on GamesIndustry.biz, about what happens when Microsoft and ABK do merge, and because ABK is the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to monthly active users, they have like over 16%. Microsoft in comparison is like at 6%, and Sony I think is at like 5 something. So the combined forces of ABK and Microsoft Xbox is going to make them way out in front when it comes to that metric. And now you can dismiss that metric, but if you've been listening to our shows for the past 2 years, if you've been listening to what Satya and Phil and everybody from Xbox has been talking about, engagement is what it's all about nowadays to them. Sure, console sales are still important because it's a gateway into the ecosystem. So yes, console sales do count for something. I'm not one of those people that completely dismiss console sales at this point and say, well, Xbox doesn't care.
It still matters.
It still matters.
Care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would still say it's probably even maybe the most important part of it.
Yes.
But you're talking about a one aspect still compared to several different things.
Correct.
And ultimately what Xbox cares is if you're playing in the ecosystem, whether you're playing on a PlayStation and you're playing a Minecraft or playing whatever, or you're playing on a PC, if you're playing on an Xbox, you're playing on your phone, they want to sell subscriptions, they want to sell games, right?
Mhm.
And a box, which they lose money on, is not the end all be all way for them to make profit, right? So that's what a lot of people fail to understand still, but I'm not going to act like it doesn't matter, because I think it's still a sign of one aspect, a sign of like the popularity of a brand,
the mindset,
right?
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I still feel like this next year is going to be another swing back the direction, as long as they can get their inventory in check, because that was the most surprising thing to me, Pong, especially early on when all that PlayStation stuff with the yields and all those things. You remember all that, right?
Of course.
And Xbox didn't have any of those issues. But yet still the supply is not there. Like if you walk into a store now, you're more likely to see a PS5 on the shelf than you are an Xbox Series X.
100, yeah.
You'll see a PS5, you'll see a Series S.
Mhm.
More than likely, you won't see a Series X. Every once in a while, you may see one, but it's not as common as those other two consoles.
Nope, it's not. And like you said, we've talked about it. We've had the speculation that they could be holding, for the Diablo, which obviously they're ramping up that partnership. They're ramping up the marketing rights for Diablo by putting out a bundle package with a Series X. Too bad it is not a special edition. I wish they would get back to special editions. I think it is cool. I understand why it is extra money. At the end of the day, extra packaging, all that kind of stuff that goes into those types of special edition consoles. But still, the fact that they do have a bundle with Diablo is huge. And then we know the Starfield bundles are going to be around.
Yeah.
The Starfield bundles are going to be there. If that controller that we saw earlier this week is real, again, you can question it. You should take it with a grain of salt because it came from a Chinese website. The description made it sound like it was some guy kind of like Pope Art who does custom stuff as well. But I gotta say that looked pretty damn official. That looked like something that would come out of Bethesda and Xbox as far as a controller goes for Starfield, like how they did the back and the saying on the inside. That looked really cool.
Yeah.
And if they've got anything like that, and if they can put together something like Colt put together a custom console, a quick mock-up of a custom console as well, they can do that. It'll be huge. It'll be gigantic. It'll be a big seller, no matter what at the end of the day. So, but we got to hope that's the reason why we're not seeing Series X's is that they've been holding this the stock.
The chat saying I'm wrong and there's no shortage. I mean, I don't know. Anytime I go into a store, I don't see a Series X on the shelf, and I see PS5s. I see people talking about it still. Like, I think if you try and order one online, you're more than likely to be able to find a retailer that has one.
Yes.
But overall availability seems higher.
Well, we talked to Forte.
He's
on Xbox Ultimate, like what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, and he was like, he hadn't gotten but 8 Xboxes all year at GameStop, and he's only gotten one shipment of Series X's, and he got like 8 different shipments of PS5s.
Well, no, he said he was still living off the holiday shipment for PS5s because he had got 200 of them.
Right, that's right. Yeah, and he had gotten like
crazy,
some ridiculously low number of Series X's.
Right.
Yeah.
Series X's.
Yeah, I mean, this is not just made up stuff. I'm not just like making shit up, guys. I mean, this is
they're just not available everywhere like they should be at this point in the console's life cycle. Right? They should be more available. You should see them every once in a while on shelves. And like Mav said, at least where I'm at, I've yet to see a Series X. I see Series S's all the time at my local Target. I've seen 1 PlayStation 5 there. I've seen 0 Series X. 0.
I walked in a Target 2 weeks ago. I saw like 2 or 3 PlayStation 5s on the shelf. I saw like 2 Series S's. No Series X. Right. And that's kind of par for the course anytime I go into a store now.
Right.
So, and not that they aren't probably going to receive shipments or receiving shipments now. It's just not as frequent or as many as PlayStation's getting. And I don't know if it's because of projections that they have or if it's because of issues or they're waiting for their games, because it would suck if they launched, had all these big games come out and they were still shorthanded. So, the companies have known to kind of stockpile behind the 4 big releases. PlayStation did it with God of War as well, right?
Correct.
So there could be more bundles. We know the Diablo bundle is out there. I hope the Starfield console is going to happen. And I find no reason for them not to. I mean, they did a Halo Infinite one, right? So why not do a Starfield? It'll have been 2 years almost since the Halo console. Correct. So yeah, let's do it. Let's get a Starfield console, man.
Starfield, yeah.
You'll sell consoles to people that already have consoles.
Correct. I mean, yes. Sure. I mean, that's for sure. But there's going to be other people entering the ecosystem for the first time because of Starfield.
Yeah.
Again, what the numbers finally will wind up being, how much it moves the needle, we'll have to wait a little bit to try to gauge that. But there are going to be people that buy their first Xbox or haven't had an Xbox since maybe the 360 generation that come back to get that secondary console, whether it's an S or an X, to play Starfield. I can guarantee you that because there is that many Bethesda fans out there. And there are Bethesda fans that will not deny themselves the ability to play if they are console-only players, and they will come to Xbox. And so Xbox has got to have that stuff ready. They
just got to have the games, just like everything, right?
Yep.
And this year is that year for Xbox. Finally, it's been a long time coming, but it hit the ground running this year. The first 3 months this year have already completely smashed 2022 for me. Right. I mean, and that's not just from first party for Xbox. I'm talking about in general for all of gaming. 2022 or 2023 so far has been way better than 2022. As a whole, and we still have 8 months to go. With, as we talked about, Pong on Xbox Ultimate last week, this next 5 months for Xbox, this next 5 months is probably going to be one of the biggest periods in Xbox's history. Like,
Correct.
just if you look at everything coming, you look at what's going on with the ABK deal, you look at probably Friends and Family launching, you look at Ubisoft Plus launching as well soon, and all these games capping it off with what we know of right now for Starfield, and then after that, probably Forza Motorsport this late summer or early fall, right? For maybe Forza early fall. This could be the biggest 5-month period in Xbox history as far as everything's encompassed. Especially if the ABK acquisition is closed within that, because you talk about mindshare, you talk about excitement, you talk about hype, you talk about game releases, you talk about services, you talk about value. It's insane. You can literally go back in the history and try and find if ABK closes a time like that in Xbox's history, and you're going to be hard pressed to find one, right?
You're not, and it's, I mean, even now without ABK is so up in front and visible.
Yeah.
That's why it's so easy to point to that. But even without ABK, just what they've done over the past 5 years, and where they're going to be at, even if they didn't get ABK, it would still wind up, we would have our best stretch of Xbox years over the next, I think, starting this year through the next at least 3, right? That we were going to have the best stretch of first party games that we've seen with all the deals that they have cut and are going to cut with third parties. It's just growing and growing and growing. And so, but ABK, throw that into there. I mean, again, you're not throwing a gas can, you're throwing a whole tanker truck into the fire with ABK, because it's going to explode, especially when you talk about, everybody's been so focused on Call of Duty, but here comes Diablo 4. And again, we've talked about this so many times, man. Everybody forgets when Blizzard's on their game, because Blizzard has had its down years. But when Blizzard's on its game, it's unbelievable what they can put together. Diablo 4 right now is turning us out. Let's talk about this real quick too, man, because we did get some Diablo 4 news. Everybody in chat, listen up. If you are a Diablo 4 fan,
real quick,
yeah.
before we, because this is going to go, we're going to be talking about a different topic.
Yeah.
Literally, if you go to Amazon right now, the Xbox Series X available by invitation. You have to request an invitation still, even on Amazon right now, to buy a Series X.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh, that's fine. So chat, listen up. If you are Diablo 4 and you're looking for that early access because you are going to pre-order Diablo, we got news this week. Mike Ybarra put out a tweet and then he corrected himself. So if you are this is important because I know a lot of people are going to be taking time off for Diablo as well. I am. Ding, 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 ding. I'm taking extra day on Friday to get in there because I'm going to have early access for sure. But the deluxe and ultimate pre-orders, the early access starts in the US on Thursday. So PM in the PM, we might be cutting a little short to go play some Diablo that night if the servers are up and running and capable. But it starts on Thursday, June 1st at 4 p.m. And I believe that's Pacific time. So 6 o'clock Central time, 7 o'clock Eastern time is when the servers go live in the US. So we actually get more extra time. If you are in Europe, it is Friday at 12 a.m. So right at 12 a.m. In the East, in Asia, it is going to be Friday at 8 a.m. And then regular launch for everybody who does not have early access is June the 5th at 4 p.m. in the United States, June the 6th at 12 a.m. In Europe, and June the 6th at 8 a.m. in Asia. So U.S. market does get a break this time around. No need to travel to New Zealand. New Zealanders are actually going to have to travel to the United States in order to play Diablo early for a change. So we get the break this time around, but I want to let everybody know that. But Mav, they put out a video. They put out a YouTube breakdown of endgame stuff and even threw in some PvP stuff. Did you get a chance to watch this?
I have not seen this, but break it down for me.
Okay, I'm gonna break this down for you a little bit. Great video. Everybody needs to go watch it. A lot of information, actually. It wasn't very long. I think it was only 10 minutes long, maybe. but they give us a lot. They gave us a good look at what it's going to be like end game wise. So they talked about, first of all, what you're going to do once you hit max level. And you're going to have to actually run a special dungeon to move into the next level. But then you start your Paragon levels, and they quickly showed the skill trees for the Paragon levels. And again, I go back to my Path of Exile comparison. The skill tree that we saw in the beta is your basic skill tree. When you move to Paragon, it opens up unbelievable amounts of skills, right? Unbelievable. And they showed this off. You've got all these different, you got these different sectors in the skill tree. So you got like your strength sector, your agility sector, all those kind of broken down. And you can actually rotate the board so you can see it better. That's how big this thing is. It's unbelievable. They definitely took a lot of influence from Path of Exile. So they showed that off, right? And then they talked about how the dungeons are actually going to be at that point, right? You're going to be able to rerun the dungeons, over 120 dungeons available at launch, right? And you're going to be able to get these special, what did they call them? I forgot what they called them. Chat, somebody remember them. If you remember what they call it. But anyways, you find these special
Codex
markers. It's marker. It's some type of mark that you have. You find these special marks, and then you can place these marks on any one of the dungeons, and it turns the dungeon into like the next level. Like that's when you start. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get to pick and choose which dungeons you're going to do this to, and there's over 120.
Fifth Horseman saying aspects.
Yes, aspects. Thank you. And then you can use within those dungeons, then you can actually tweak them even further with a different set of like aspects where it tweaks, like, it's almost like skulls in Halo or whatever you want to call it, right? Where you can affect how it was. And they pointed out one of them being that you can actually set up the dungeons so randomly these hell portals are spawned, and enemies that aren't native to that dungeon will start flooding the area on top of all the native monsters that you're already fighting. And that will happen randomly.
The chat's correcting us at sigils.
Sigils, okay, so sigils are the ones for the dungeons, right? Where you mark them.
Yeah, they're saying like nightmare sigils.
Yes, thank you, chat. This is why I love the chat. That's why I love this community. And then aspects are the ones that actually tweak the dungeons themselves to make them even harder within that. So you're going to be able to do all that, man. Then they've got this. Then they went into PvP. And this is what everybody's curious about. So you can walk into these areas that sound a lot like the dark zones in Division.
Right.
Okay. And you're collecting special gems within this area. Okay. Then you got to take these gems, and these gems have their own store back in town.
Do you have to extract them up on a helicopter rope?
Nope. But that's where I got
right.
That's where I was in the DMs. I was like, this is a lot like Division Dark Zone. You actually have to take the gems before you can go back to town with them. You have to go purify them.
Oh.
So there's only certain spots where you can purify them at.
Oh,
so guess what?
Yeah.
That's where everybody shows up. Right.
Oh shit. I don't know if I'm ready for that, man. Yes. I'll only be doing that with my squad. That's for sure.
Yes.
100%. You don't want to do that alone, probably.
No. It sounds like it's going to get sweaty in there real quick. So, because the purified spots, I'm sure everybody's going to know. They said that in the video. They're like, people are going to know.
How many people can be in that instance in that area?
They did not say the total number. They did not.
Did you imagine like 20 necromancers?
Right. With their armies
and just this all-out skeleton army over these gems.
So once you get them purified, then you can take it back to town, and then they have special stores that you can buy, items from with the gems that you collect out of this area. So, video was incredible. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is Diablo 4. This is just going to be the base experience, right? We all know, even with Diablo 3, now it's sold over 30 million copies, right? But in the beginning, people weren't happy with Diablo 3, but Blizzard didn't stop working on it. They transformed that game into a completely different experience than we started with. Diablo 4 is already way ahead of that curve.
Yeah.
With Diablo 3, according to anybody who's played the beta, most people who played the beta. I won't say everybody, because again, there's some people that are unhappy with it. But most of us are like, this is exactly what we wanted. The hype is off the charts for this game already. But they're going to continue to evolve this game. They're going to expand it out. There's going to be a lot more dungeons, potentially more storylines included, areas opening up. This is just the beginning. Diablo 4 is about to be a phenomenon. Now, I've been on record on other shows, I think even on this one, saying that I believe that Diablo 4 will be the biggest seller this year.
It could be.
I think it could be. I think it's got that potential right now with the hype, as long as they don't screw up the launch in some way, which again, Blizzard has done in the past. I think this could be it. But Mav, hearing all of that, I know you get to watch it, but hearing all that, what do you think?
Sounds like it's going to be a surprise hit.
Yeah, the article. Are you kidding me?
That's
Tell me you don't know anything about video games.
It's going to be a surprise hit, Diablo 4.
Little game
what a surprise that Diablo could be a hit. I mean, whoever thought? Who wrote that? Was that Bloomberg or GameIndustry.biz or Wall Street Journal maybe?
Was it? Yeah, it was
I made the Wall Street Journal, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, a surprise game called Diablo 4 is gonna maybe do wonders, you know. Yeah, it sounds awesome, man. Like, even with just the content that I have experienced, knowing that there's all these other chapters to do, and so much more, even from Act 1 that we didn't get to do yet, and like all these other levels, and the skill tree is just going to be so much more expansive. Even just knowing that aspect, Diablo 4 has everything I could ever possibly want in a game, especially a Diablo type game, right? And now all these other things you're adding to it, it's just adding to that next levelness. Once you're done with everything, you know, what is there to do now? And that's where you get your sweaty on and really try and build that ultimate build and character, taking on others and stuff. And it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to get into it. This is going to be one of those monster games, and that's going to be a generational thing. We'll be playing this 10 years from now, you know, just like people still playing Diablo 3, right? This will be
going.
Yeah, it's going to be so popular for a long time. People forget, man. People have short-term memories when it comes to games, just like they have with Bethesda and what they can do with, you know, games like Fallout and Skyrim and a whole Elder Scrolls series and all this stuff. And then people focus on, you know, the controversies or the issues of recent and these different things, and they forget sometimes who these devs are and what they're capable of making, right? And then it comes out, oh shit, you know. And I think part of it is because of how long it takes to make these damn games now.
Yes.
Right? Like
100.
It takes like 5-6 years for these big games to come out now, even after they've been announced sometimes, or like when they've been teased or rumored. And it's like, okay, well, what have they done for us lately? You know, by the time between Fallout 4 and Starfield, for example, you're talking about what, like 7 years? Roughly, when did Fallout 4 come out? Like 2016, 2017, maybe. I don't even remember. Maybe even 2018. I don't know. I can't remember, but at least 5 years, right? At least 5 years, and we knew that Starfield was going to be their next game after Fallout 4 launched. They talked about it, but still, people only focus on Fallout 76. They only focus on this and that, right? And Diablo is kind of the same. It's like, well, Blizzard, what have they done for us? You know, this Overwatch, and people nitpick about the different aspects with Overwatch, or they talk about
2015 Mav was Fallout 4.
Fucking hey, really? So it'll be eight years between big first party RPGs from that team at Bethesda.
But Mav, Fallout 76, and it sucked.
It's not the same thing, man. Not even the same team. It's not even the same team. It's just interesting. But Blizzard, Blizzard has so many different projects that they do, right? You know, you got World of Warcraft, you got Hearthstone, you know, you have Overwatch, you know, you got Diablo and maybe StarCraft or and all these other
They got
things.
the survival game.
Yeah, they're making another survival game.
That Jez also said something about this
Yeah.
week, and he said, just wait
Yeah.
till you see the survival game.
But
So,
Blizzard's history, you can even go back and listen to interviews with some of the Blizzard devs, and they always go through this thing, you know, where they have this like long development cycle, and there's all this turmoil and all these negatives and all these bad things that happen, you know. But then when it comes down to like close to the end, everything comes together, and they put out something, and it becomes magic, right? And it just completely launches them to another stratosphere. And that we've been riding this roller coaster of Blizzard, you know, minus the one aspect that's been majorly different here in recent years is the big controversies with the internal issues that they've had with their studios and workplace culture and all that kind of stuff. That stuff's been new information, right? But besides that, the whole, you know, roller coaster of Blizzard has always kind of been the same, you know, and they always come out with the next greatest thing still, and launches them to up there on that mountain where they belong as one of the best developers in the world, you know.
Yep.
Um,
and they're gonna be first party.
it's crazy. And we were talking about this a long time ago.
Yeah,
Everybody's
we
focused
are.
on Call of Duty. I'm like,
Yep.
so other
Just don't
games,
understand.
guys, you just don't know, you know. And PlayStation focusing on Call of Duty so much, it's like, guys, you just don't know, you know, Diablo and Warcraft and all these other franchises they have.
Engagement.
Oh my God, they are. And the thing about those properties too is they're very popular across different ecosystems,
Yes.
right?
All
Like,
over the world.
And Diablo 3, like I've bought it on a PlayStation, I bought it on my Xbox, I bought it on a Switch, I bought it on PC, you know, I bought it so many different places. I bought it on more than one Xbox, you know?
Yeah.
One of those games you buy multiple times over the years. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of that. I prefer knowing with the acquisition that cross buy will be a thing, right? Updates and all these kind of things. I'm looking forward to that. But it just shows to the popularity of the brand and how many platforms it's supported in the past, right? So
Correct.
It's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, it's gonna be a huge deal. Again, everything we've seen so far says they're hitting on all cylinders again.
Yeah.
With this game specifically, and again, the magic of Diablo 4 or Diablo itself is going to remind everybody yet again and again. Since they launched Diablo 3, the landscape of video games has changed.
Oh yeah.
Diablo 3 launched on the 360 PS3 generation. You know how big this gaming industry has gotten since that time frame? This is the first brand new Diablo launching within now this new industry that we have, with all these people that all of a sudden video games are the popular hobby. It is the number one entertainment industry in the world. And you're launching one of the biggest names in video game history in Diablo with a brand new game that seems that they've listened to all the feedback and have fixed all the issues and are coming out with something that everybody is going, oh my God. Again, you always know now when you're looking even in the small community that we have, this is a fraction of the entire video game, you know, industry when it comes to consumers, when it comes to gamers. But even looking at this small little fraction, when you see people hopping on Twitter saying, I have never played a Diablo game, first of all, that blows this old guy's mind, right? This old guy still has a hard time conceiving that there are generations that have never maybe touched a Diablo game. But that's the case. That's what I'm talking about. But when you see those people hopping on Twitter to make a point to tweet out, I have never played a Diablo game, but I hopped into the Diablo 4 beta, and oh my God, I love this game. I can't wait until it comes out. That's when you know they're starting to hit that sweet spot again.
Yeah.
They're going to draw people in. You already have 30 million plus Diablo 3 players. And most of those people are going to be fans. Even if they didn't like Diablo 3, they're going to be Diablo fans of some shape or form. And now you drop Diablo 4 into the mix. You fix all the issues from Diablo 3. You bring it back to the darkness. You get this freaking fantastic story going. You've already got the fandom going. We love Lilith. We want Lilith, Mother, me included. Mother is everything. You get that going. It's like this contagious phenomenon that will start to happen when this game drops, because everybody on your friends list, the majority of your friends list, you're going to see Diablo 4, Diablo 4, Diablo 4, Diablo 4. We've seen this. We saw it with Elden Ring. And Elden Ring was a brand new IP in a genre that was very niche at the time, but it broke through. Diablo has the potential. And I don't even think it's as niche as Souls games. I think action RPGs overall are more popular than Souls games were when Elden Ring.
They have a longer history on PC.
They have a longer history. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So Diablo 4, though, has the chance to be that phenomenon again where you pull up your friends list and that's all you see people playing. That's what you see on Twitter, people posting videos about their builds that they're finding. All of the meta that goes into these types of games. Then you throw in PvP, which creates a whole new system.
Yeah.
This game is going to be around, like Mav said, for 10 plus years. This game that people aren't going to stop playing. This is one of those games that you have installed on your hard drive constantly. Even if you're not playing it all the time, you hop back into it from time to time and make some runs.
Yep.
Because that's how good it is, right? So this game is going to be giant. It really is. And that fact that, again, like we talked about, Call of Duty, because it's a yearly release, because it is one of the biggest franchises in the history of video games. It gets all the focus and all the attention. But this game right here is going to be one of those money makers for Xbox. One of those engagement things where it's in Game Pass after a certain time frame. All of a sudden it's in Game Pass and people maybe held off, can jump in anytime once they join the ecosystem. It's a seller. That's what this is going to do for them. And it's not a seller that lasts a year. It's a seller that lasts 10 years.
Get you a Kishi or one of those Apple ones, the X-Bone or whatever it's called.
Yep.
What is it? What's the fucking Apple iPhone controller called? It's not the X-Bone. The X-Bone was the Xbox One. Backbone.
Backbone.
I was thinking of the Xbox One nickname. Sorry. Yeah, Backbone. Yeah, either get a Backbone or a Kishi. You know, playing Diablo and fucking the cloud would be a fine experience. How
could be great.
Easy it'll control.
Perfect game for it, right?
Yeah.
If you just want to do some solo runs, right? If you're not even doing like nightmare dungeons or anything, if you're just making some solo runs and run around, get some loot while you're on the toilet, it's the perfect game for that.
Exactly.
That's what this is about. Oh
man. Yeah, we got a $2 super chat from Safe Space Invader. His first super chat on the channel. Appreciate that. It says, so if ABK closes, when do all the games show?
It's going to be a rollout period, I believe.
I don't think it'll take too long. Maybe 2 months rollout. I don't know.
Certain games, I think, and again, there's some big question marks obviously in there. How, Call of Duty, when can it roll out? Diablo, when is that going to be able to roll out? Those types of things. But we saw this with Bethesda. They did a large group and then they rolled out the extra ones over, I think it was the next 3 months.
They had a few like dumpings of titles.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, of titles. And I think that same thing is going to happen here. I don't think it's going to be all at once, but we will get a big drop up front of what can be. And then we'll see the other ones roll in as it becomes viable for Xbox to do so. It just depends when it closes too. If it's before the holidays, they'll save some of those for the holiday to say, hey, got another drop of ABK coming in. It's a great advertisement. It's great marketing to do that during the holidays as well, to be able to promote that. Oh, by the way, coming in November, Diablo 4 available on Game Pass. Like, that's going to be a big deal, right? That's going to be gigantic during the sales time. So I think that's how it's probably going to work. But it's going to be exciting. No doubt about it. Again, the value of Game Pass will just be going up at that point dramatically.
Yeah.
It's going to be stupid. Sure. Oh my God, Mav, we got over 170 people in here right now. Yeah. My God, all of you, beautiful people. I'm going to do some shout outs here. I probably won't get to everybody, but I'm going to do some shout outs because that's what we do here. And I said I would never stop no matter how big we get here. Listen, all of you, I love you all. If you're lurking in the background, love you the same. Thank you for joining us. Again, we took a week off. You never know how that week back's going to be. Over 170 people in here. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're enjoying the content already. This is me and Mav. This is what we do. If this is your first time here listening to us, we don't have some big planned out show where we go from topic to topic like that. Mav and I are going to talk about what we want to talk about. And sometimes it's all over the place, but we have a good time. So we appreciate you. Thank you for dropping in here. If you can hit that like button, please do so. It helps the algorithm. That's how the Fun Speculation Network has been growing over the past year and a half, especially. We've seen dramatic growth here. Continue to hit that like button. If you got a moment, please share it out. Tell somebody about us. Because again, Thursday nights, this is what Mav and I do here. So you don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk. We're going to talk a lot and we're going to have a good time. So appreciate you all. Listen, Jarrett Bishop, great to see you in here. Dark Zone 2525, awesome to always have you a part of our show. Jason Hackett is in the house. What's going on, Jason? Good to see you, brother. Pixel Slappa is in here. And no, Pixel, you are not a first timer. Nice try, brother. Mr. Joanna Dark, what is going on? Great to have you in here, sir. Sky L, of course, is dropping on in here. Vertung Mogum, what's going on? I hope I didn't butcher your name. If I did, I apologize. Definitely not intentional, but great to see you in here. Ilray Tito, what is going on, Ilray? Talos Re is in the house. What's going on, my friend? Phasma's in here, the wonderful Phasma. What's going on, Phaz? Jarrett Bishop is in the house. Louis Jose, of course, saying hit that like button. Thank you, Louis Jose. Appreciate you. Dion Hayes. What's going on, Dion? Great to have you dropping in here. Who else we got? We got Nix. Nix, it wouldn't be a show without you, brother. Thank you for being here, man. As always, Red Monkey Butt. What is going on, Red Monkey Butt? Great to have you in here as well. We got the Sousa is in the house as well. We got Dreadful Sean. Dreadful Sean is in the house. What's going on, Dreadful? I hope you're having a better day. The Fifth Horseman V. What's going on, brother? Great to have you in here. It's Timmy. It's Timmy's in here as well. RSJ fan, always great to have you in here, my friend. Thank you for joining us. King J79, what is happening? Who else we got in here? We got going through names here. Who didn't I grab here? Lucius Augustus. Lucius Augustus, simping for Lilith. Yeah, I don't simp very often, but I'll simp.
Lilith will be the new Lady D.
Yeah, pretty much, mother. She's yeah. She presents a much better case than what's his face does. I'll tell you that much. Ray Oid, what is going on, Ray? Great to see you, a part of the show. Dropping here saying hi. Sir X-Men is in the house. Great to see you, Sir X-Men. Snooky Jackson's up in here saying hello. We got the brother from another Psychonauts dropping on in here. He's been pulling up the slack this week of the DMs because I've been absent a lot during the day, and Psychonauts has been filling up the DMs with news. Great to see you, Psycho, as always, brother. Can't wait to talk to you tomorrow night. Corey C, what is going on? Of course, the one, the only, Shane G is in the house. And I actually do like Fallout 76 too, Shane. It's changed a lot, and that's why they keep it going. There's millions of people playing Fallout 76 as much as people like to rip on it. UK Lad is in the house. What's going on, UK? Wouldn't be a show without you dropping in the chat as well. Donnie Skills, what's going on? We got TMHW Gaming. What's going on? Tony Grasso is up in the house saying hi. What's going on, Grasso? Who else we got in here? Did I see anybody else? Sean T, great to see you. Vic the Click, of course, is up in here. What's going on, Vic? Always big time supporter. Decado is in the house, of course, as well. Again, the regular faces, the new faces. Amit Kumar, what's going on? I see you in here. Polly Baba's in here. BigMADMoe's in the house. All of you. We love you. Thank you for being here. Again, old faces, new faces. You're all a part of this community, and thank you for joining me and Mav tonight. Really, really, really do appreciate that. Wandering Dutch. Got to shout out the Wandering Dutch, of course. Midweek Mix-Up Collective. Poison Maniac, of course. Big supporter. Always shouting us out on Twitter as well. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
We've got some house cleaning to do, too, here, Pong Soul.
Some house cleaning going, man.
Yeah. We got one more super chat. Don't worry.
Caitlin, I see you, Caitlin. You already know. I don't.
I was about to mention her in a minute anyway.
Listen, Caitlin does all the thumbnails. Caitlin gets love and appreciation all the time from myself and everybody a part of the Fun Speculation Network because of all the work she does to make sure that we look good on Twitter, especially, and on YouTube. So thank you, Caitlin. And of course, I didn't miss you. I was just scrolling and didn't see your name. There's 175 people in here right now, and the chat's moving very fast. I'm done with my excuses.
This chat
Sorry,
rocks,
Caitlin.
as always. One of my best chats out there because you guys are engaged, and that's what it's all about. We did get another $2 super chat from Highlander001, who said, will WoW go to Game Pass PC when the deal closes? I hope so.
Ooh.
I don't know.
That's been an interesting topic. I don't think so.
Do you think they might come up with like a different version potentially in the future, or maybe
Potentially, but because the subscription is everything, it's just like Elder Scrolls Online now, right?
yeah,
The subscription is everything, right? So, like, yeah, you can hop into Elder Scrolls Online, the base game, but you don't get anything else for free. You got to join the subscription
Yeah.
model if you want to get all the expansions, if you want to get all the extra stuff. You still got to buy all that stuff. They don't give away the expansions in Game Pass, none of that.
What if they
and
eventually launched a tier like in Game Pass in the future? Because there are probably some more of these types of games going to come eventually. Like ZeniMax Online has another MMO coming out at some point.
Correct.
So what if they launch a tier in the future for like an extra $5 a month or something? After being a Game Pass Ultimate member, you get full subscription to all of their MMOs.
Yeah, I could see it. I've always said that I expect at some point that they evolve the model where we do get the plugins or the add-ons, whatever you want to call it, much like you can do, like we talked about, Mav, Amazon Prime. You get Amazon Prime, you get their movies. But then you go in there and you plug in, you know, oh, I want HBO. Oh, I want Stars. Oh, and you can add those. And I think eventually we do get to that point where we do have those add-ons. And I think that would make sense once they get this going. The subscription base is big enough. And all of a sudden you do have all these MMOs and all these subscription-based modeled games out there. Why not throw in one that says, hey, for an extra $5, an extra $10, you can play as much as you want to of these subscription-based games, and you're going to get all the bonus, you're going to get all the benefits of the subscription, but you only have to pay an extra, $5-10 a month. I think that would make total sense. I would love to see them do it.
Right on.
For sure. Yep.
All right, so let's get to a couple things here for some house cleaning for the channel. We have a sponsor here. It's manscaped.com. What we use to get nice and smooth and clean for our ladies. Shout out to Manscaped. And here is a little information from Manscaped. Manscaped is here with a deal you can't pass over this Easter season. They've got the tools to give you the beautifully decorated eggs of your dreams. Just because it's Easter doesn't mean it's okay to hide those bad boys behind all that tall grass. So make sure your downstairs lawn is mowed. Get yourself feeling as sweet as candy by going to manscaped.com and getting 20% off plus free shipping with code FUNSPECULATION. Again, everybody, it's 20% off and free shipping with code FUNSPECULATION at manscaped.com. Hop into the best deal of the year with Manscaped. Let's go. Yeah, good products.
Amazing products.
Good deal. If you add up the free shipping plus the 20% off, depending on what you get, that adds up to quite a bit of savings. Help yourself, help the channel. And that's not the only way you can help the channel. If you are looking ways to support the channel, again, first off, I'll say any support is always appreciated, never expected. Super chats and all that kind of stuff. We never expect anything from you guys. I'm not one of those people who's like, hey, where's all the community support? Fuck that. Just the fact that anybody even takes a second to be here is all that matters. But we have had requests in the past, and Kate has revamped our merch shop as well. So there is a link in the chat below if you want to check out some of the new merch that we have here on the channel. I got a little image. Oh, I got to move this. I fucked it up here. But I got a little image here showcasing the some of the new merch for the channel here. One that has all of our shows. Got the logos. We finally got hats, tumblers, mugs, all this kind of stuff. So check it out if you're interested. The link below, it's in the information, and you can find some of the merch for the channel. And thanks to Caitlin for designing all this stuff as well. She put in the hard work and absolutely amazing job. So thanks, baby. All right.
And one day when Fun Speculation Network is everywhere, this stuff's going to be worth money. So grab it now and save it, because it is. It's going to be collector's items someday when you see us plastered everywhere at age 60 and 70 years old as the original Fun Speculation Network people. It's going to be amazing. So grab that now. No, it looks fantastic. Again, shout out to Caitlin. Doing all the hard work.
She wants. She's also has this thing that she's had. This was her idea to have some limited edition stuff show up, like for seasonal type things, right? So she just asked in the chat for me to show off something she's been working on. Sneak peek of some merch that'll be out in the summertime, and that'll be available for a short period of time once it hits the summer. So I got to bring that up real quick at her. her request, so I will do so. Give me 1 second.
Please do.
Let's go. All right, here we go. Sorry. And bringing it up as we speak, taking me a second. Apologize.
It's unplanned.
Yeah, unplanned.
This is about the most non-talking you'll get out of us
Yeah.
here on PM the PM. Like, this never happens.
It's coming, I promise. Okay, hold on. I'm struggling here.
Pause.
What?
Work it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jerk it a little bit more.
Is 3 times too many?
I don't know. I mean, if you can do it 3 times, great.
Okay, here we go. Well, who was it? The psycho that said 6 times a day?
Yep.
Here we go. All right.
He was in love with that girl, that meme girl.
Yeah.
That said she takes care of her man at least 6 times a day. Okay.
Yeah, so
full-time job.
Fun Speculation Summer Edition
Ooh,
coming up.
Look at that. Look at that. You've got shorts in there? Wow.
Yeah. You got some summer fun. Yeah. She's been working hard on this stuff. It's a blast.
To it. I like it. I like it.
So shout out to my baby for making it fun.
Looking good. I like that. I like the special limited edition lineup right there. Again, collector's items, folks. Get them now. Get them now. 100%. All right.
So somebody said, "Her, we all got ADD." Right on. Okay, let's get into some gaming talk.
Yeah, let's get into some gaming talk. Well, we got a lot of Sony stuff to get into, man. So let's start out with the one that kind of introed the week, right? Shout out to Tom Henderson. I always give this man a shout out. Again, I hope to talk to him someday. I'd love to sit down and talk with Tom. He does insidergaming.com. If you haven't checked out his website, please go check it out. He's doing big numbers over there. He's only 6 months old as far as his website goes. But Tom Henderson breaks a lot of stuff, and a lot of people hate him. And anytime you get the ivory tower all worked up, I'm going to love you, because the elites need to be worked up from time to time, and people get pissed off at Tom for breaking news. But it is what it is. I love his leaks. And here in Speculation Town, that's what we're all about. We love discussing this stuff. So Tom in Insider Gaming had an exclusive, and he had hinted at this for a while now. But Sony's next PlayStation handheld. Now, when you say this, I get excited if you just leave it at that, because I was a PSP fan. I was a Vita fan. I loved both of those handhelds. I'm not a handheld guy, generally speaking, but I loved what Sony was doing with PSP and especially the Vita. So I get all excited. But let's break down what supposedly, and again, this is not anything official. This is just behind the scenes stuff. Things can change. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt, but we are going to talk about it because it was a big deal, is a big deal right now, about where Sony's going and what they're doing here. So, article says, following days of speculation, Insider Gaming can report that there's a new PlayStation handheld in development, codenamed the Q Lite. The next PlayStation handheld is the next piece of Sony hardware that aims to be yet another piece of hardware that requires the PlayStation 5. Read that again. Aims to be yet another piece of hardware that requires the PlayStation 5. Insider Gaming understands that the Q Lite is not a cloud streaming device, but instead uses remote play with the PlayStation 5, a feature the console giant has been pushing these past couple weeks. And yes, they did put out a big graphic saying, kind of like Xbox does, saying, hey, you can play your PlayStation 5 and all these devices. Now, we all know it's not the same as what Xbox is offering, but we see Sony starting to push this a little bit more. Sporting adaptive streaming up to 1080p and 60 frames per second, the new device will require constant connectivity to the internet. As for the console's physical features, early prototypes show the console will look a lot like the PlayStation 5 controller, but with a massive 8-inch LCD touchscreen in the center. The device sports adaptive triggers for haptic feedback and will include what you would come to expect from a handheld: volume buttons, speakers, an audio input jack, etc. Insider Gaming understands the Q Lite is in its QA phase and is scheduled to release before the PlayStation 5 Pro, which again, Tom Henderson and Insider Gaming was talking about, I think last week when we didn't do our show. And after the detachable disk drive PS5, which is supposed to be out this year. So we're talking about 2024 time.
Yeah.
The rumors are PlayStation 5 Pro at the earliest holiday 2024, maybe 2025. So he's saying somewhere in between, because the detachable disk drive PS5 is supposed to be out this holiday. So we should be getting news on that soon as well. As previously mentioned by industry insider Jeff Grubb, Sony is planning to announce its second phase of the PS5, which was in reference to its future game slate. Ironically, though, the second phase is very much true for Sony's hardware offerings, with the new detachable disk drive PlayStation 5, Project Nomad, which are wireless earphones, Project Voyager, wireless headset, and Q-Lite handheld, all scheduled to release within a very short period. It's understood that the PlayStation 5 Pro is aiming for a holiday 2024 release. So whenever Sony's next PlayStation showcase will be, it seemingly is going to be a big one. Mav, always connected online, streaming from your PlayStation 5 only. So basically what we have, and I'm not the first to describe it this way, I heard it plenty, but it fits, is a Wii U remote. If you guys remember the Wii U.
I got exclusive footage of this handheld device.
Breaking.
Yeah.
You got it?
We got it.
Okay.
This is, nobody has seen this thing before, everybody.
Okay. All right.
Now, this is, stumbled upon it. You know, I just DMing Jim Ryan, like I do sometimes, and said, hey, man, what's this about? And he said, we took inspiration, you know.
Is that when he said PM and the PM is irrational?
Yeah, exactly. He said, but you know what? To make up for our insults, you know, I'm gonna give you this nugget. So, we got it here. Oh, here we go. It's zoomed out. I'm gonna zoom in. I mean, I'm gonna zoom out on this so you guys can get a good glimpse at it.
Oh my God.
This is a big image.
Look at that. This is, that's.
I'm revealing. Yeah, this is huge, man.
This is like a surprise reveal.
This is bigger than an 8-inch screen. Now, hold on. Wow, look at that, everybody. That's it. Except, you know, they have decided to instead to remove the Wii U logo and put a PlayStation logo there. That's the only difference between this image and what's coming out. This ambitious new groundbreaking technology from PlayStation, that's going to change things for them forever. That's it. This is the new PlayStation handheld Wii U.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
That's it.
It's better than to call it the U Lite. Would have even been better.
Yeah.
But Mav, seriously, that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to many people. And again, things can change. This could be a purposeful leak. Sony's gotten real leaky lately, Mav. They used to be pretty tight. Xbox has tightened down the ship, and it seems like Sony, especially their hardware side, is getting real leaky.
Yeah. Like Silent Hill 2 even had leaked beforehand, and like this Metal Gear stuff's out there, and
there's a lot of stuff getting out from Sony. So if this is true, and again, like I said, who knows? It could change. But let's say they go forward with this. They're in the QA phase. So that's pretty far along. They're testing. They're going to launch this thing now. What are your first initial thoughts upon hearing this? Like, who is this marketing towards? Like, what is this going to be?
First off, it better be cheap.
But we know it's not, because it's
it can't be, for my money and what it is. Like, here's the thing: like, you can buy a Backbone or a Kishi, get same functionality, right?
I'll be right back, man.
Yeah, you get same functionality, except the controller, right? Aspect is a little different because it's like a PlayStation controller on the outside of it. So what a Kishi you can get for $50 to $100, depending on where you find it, the deals or whatever. Backbone is around $100. You can find it on sale, and you can use it on your phone. You have a lot more functionality and all that kind of stuff. So for me, like, this thing's got to be less than $175 to $150 to make it even feasible to think about buying. If it's over $200, I don't know. I mean, maybe you could say like they would market to the same kind of people that would buy like an Elite controller. But even that Wii U gamepad, if y'all remember, had like a lot of extra functionality between the console and the handheld. So it added like extra features where you would have like in Madden, for example, you'd be able to pick like different plays. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to have the plays on the screen. So if you're playing multiplayer, you know, the question I have, and maybe the chat can clarify this, like, can you leave the house with this thing? Like, how do you can you access your PS5 remote play through Wi-Fi if you get a Wi-Fi connection somewhere from outside of your house, or do you have to be connected to your home Wi-Fi network? Because if you're
you should be able to connect outside, because the Vita, you could do it with the Vita.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah,
my experience with that kind of stuff in the past has not been very optimal.
No.
Like, I've tried it before, even with Xbox has that same functionality, right? Like, you can do Xbox remote play from somewhere, even if you have a good signal. If you're not at home, usually you're not getting the best experience with the remote play, like as you would if you're in the house. So question is like, what kind of quality are you going to get? And if you're relegated to Wi-Fi, you got to be somewhere with the Wi-Fi signal out there, which means you got to be using a hotspot, right? So you got to be using a hotspot, or you got to be somewhere with internet available to the public, which is usually not very good with Wi-Fi.
Correct.
Like if sitting down McDonald's, fucking using remote play at on your
unless you're in Japan or some country.
Yeah,
infrastructure
which maybe that's why this is being it gets more popular there. You know, maybe it's not really with the American or East or Western consumer in mind too much. Right. I don't know, man. I just don't see the huge potential of this. I would rather put a backbone or a Kishi in my pocket, pop it on my phone, and have that with my broadband signal, you know. But and besides that, like too, like, can't you access with these other handheld devices that are coming out? You should be able to, especially these Windows based ones, access PS Remote Play via those as well. I know you can hack the Steam Deck for it.
Sure.
So like, I just don't understand who this is for.
Right.
Unless you're just like I'm a fucking all-in PlayStation guy, and no matter what they release, a PSVR 2, this thing, I just want to engulf myself in this fucking amazing, expensive ecosystem and just flourish in it. And that's who it's for, right? So they got to be selling it for a profit at that point, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be
take a loss.
I don't think it's going to be very affordable, and I don't think it's going to sell very much.
What would you think would be a reasonable price on this, man? Like, if you were setting the price, what would you say?
I wouldn't buy this thing if it was over $175.
Okay, that's even more than me.
What are you thinking? 100 to 150?
Yep.
I mean, that sounds. How much was a Wii U gamepad?
I don't even remember.
I wasn't even over $100. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, it was less than $100. Like,
I mean, 1080, 60 frames, fine, whatever. But again, like, you have zero. It's not going to have Android. It's not going to be Android back.
Yeah, you can't do this with. You can't. This is closed ecosystem to PlayStation, right?
This is basically an updated controller.
Yeah, fuck this. $80. I just changed. Thinking about that, I just completely. Yeah. How much is the Logitech G Cloud? Is it $300?
$300, $299.
It needs to be. This can't be over $100. I don't know. Like, if it's only for PlayStation stuff, if it's only for remote play for your PS5, that fucking sucks.
Right.
It's a Wii U gamepad. It's that you can maybe take out of your house and access remote play if you have the right connections somewhere. Let's say, like, what's the point? I don't understand. It's dumb. Just get a different device that's a little bit more expensive that has way more functionality and access PS Remote Play that way. Like, I don't get it. It can't be around those prices. It can't be.
But you know it's going to be.
It's gonna
like, this is Sony.
Horrible. This is like PSVR 2, but like even worse.
Right. Way worse. Again, it's an updated controller with a screen on it is what you're winding up getting, but again, when I just thought to myself, because again, I love their handhelds. I want a Vita 2. I wish they would do it again. I wish they would try to go up against Nintendo and give it a heave-ho.
So many handhelds coming out. Like
there's so many handhelds, right? And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense now.
To not have a cloud-based device with like at least Android, like I just don't fucking understand it.
No, this is for the hardcore, like you said, Matt. This is for the hardcore or those people that are in a country like Japan that infrastructure-wise is set up for wireless gameplay everywhere you go, and you can have great service no matter where you're at, and you want to access your PS5 remotely. Okay, cool. This is for the hardcore otherwise. This is for the people that maybe share a TV with their significant other, and so they can't play the PS5 when their significant other is watching a show, so then they just play on this, right? That's basically your market. So my question is what does this do for, how does this expand anything? How does this, sure, it's another peripheral to offer, it's another way to make some bucks, but like honestly, where do you think this is going to go? There's no way, without it being Android backed or some kind of basis of it, an operating system, an OS, there's no way to expand it. There's nowhere for it to go. Like there's nothing for it to do outside of exactly what it's made to do. And if we think that they're going to bring this in at $100, we're kidding ourselves. It's not going to be $100. I'm thinking $199, and then at that point I'm like, why? Why? I mean, what's their Elite controller at? 200 and something?
I don't know, and I don't care.
I can't remember.
It's a 200, around 200 bucks.
But that's exactly what they're pricing it at. And again, this is again, I don't run billion and trillion dollar companies. I'm not sitting around the table giving great ideas, but I do want to know who's the one that stood up and said, "I've got a fantastic idea. We're gonna put out this handheld," and everybody's like, "Oh, tell us more. We'd love to get back in handheld. Streaming only."
Yeah.
And somebody says, "What about cloud?" No, we don't do cloud.
Remote play. Let's go.
Remote play. We're doing this remote play controller with an 8-inch screen. We're going to give them haptics, and they're going to eat this thing up.
Here's the thing that's maybe a differentiator here, though, just to be devil's advocate for PlayStation a little bit.
Right. Well, no, this is what I need, because this is what I asked you, because I can't figure anything out.
Maybe they're looking at this as more of an accessory as opposed to its own device, right? Because that's what it is.
I agree with you.
So if it's an accessory, they're not expecting it to have this huge ecosystem and take off within of itself. They're just going to sell this thing at a profit and make whatever they make from whoever's interested in it. So maybe they don't overshoot with the amount of expectation they have for it doing well, and just kind of have it as like another cool little thing to buy for your PlayStation.
Absolutely. And I agree.
And I think that's where this finds some semblance of an audience. Not that it's going to take off. But personally, I would say, tell people, depending on what the price is, don't buy this device. You know what I mean? Because there's other devices that have way more functionality you can get for probably a little bit more or potentially even less money. But maybe just because that consumer, that's who they're aiming it at, right? So anyway, if we think of a handheld gaming device, we're automatically thinking of this market that exists of handhelds, right? But maybe this is just a completely different thing. You're on mute, Pong. You.
I was not muted.
You weren't.
I just don't get it. I just honestly, like, I'm all for different things. Like, it doesn't, even if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm always for it.
Yeah.
But the limited functionality of this device, it simply is boggling my mind. Like, why Sony at this point, would be thinking about putting this out. Like, what? Like you said, its only purpose then is to sell, under 1 million at profit. Like, that's what you're going for here. Like I said, it just doesn't offer any expandability. It doesn't allow that, if this is what we're getting. And again, this is insider information. This is leaks. So we don't know how true this is. It could come out and there could be something more to this thing. But I was trying to even kind of think about it. Okay, so they're going to move to the diskless PS5, slimmed down version. They're going to offer, the disk drive separate, the detachable disk drive is going to be separate. Like I was trying to think of what they could be going for with this controller down the road. Like what would they be looking at to say, okay, well, we're going to expand out here and this controller is going to be like a piece of that. Like this is going, it doesn't fit into anything. It doesn't help you with VR. It doesn't do anything like that. So why? I just don't understand it. But again, I don't run billion-trillion-dollar companies, so maybe they've got a bigger plan for it that I can't see right now, or maybe there is some more specs to this thing that we haven't heard that will allow them to introduce an OS or to introduce cloud gaming to it at a later date. Maybe that potential is inside.
So I'm trying to think of this as like if Xbox had announced that they were releasing a device like this, right? I'm trying to put in my perspective of what I would be willing to pay, right?
Right.
Because I'm that diehard like Xbox enthusiast guy that like is heavily invested. I got fucking 6 Xboxes in my house. Okay,
right.
Like, I play on my phone, or I did when I had my Android on my Kishi. I'm gonna get a Backbone here, hopefully soon, because I miss that. But I'm the person that likes to own that stuff because I like playing Xbox wherever I can, whenever I want to, and all that kind of stuff, right? So. Would I buy an Xbox house? I'm going to say this is primarily a household dedicated device, right?
Right.
Because I understand you can use it other places, but for the best experience, you're probably limited to your house. I'm assuming. So, would I buy an Xbox dedicated handheld that had a good 8-inch screen on it, that had a built-in controller, that was designed around remote play? For my console.
No cloud gaming.
No cloud gaming. And I'm trying to think of if I would buy that or not. Because a Backbone or a Kishi, you can do that with your phone for a lot less. Right. So it would have to feel really good and be a really good device and have great functionality within the console. But that only benefit for me is it would free up my phone.
Sure.
Right? And which I've talked to you about that before with like the Logitech G Cloud and stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like for me, that's kind of more of a household device for me anyway, as well. I'm not playing games when I'm driving. You know what I mean? Right. And or at an appointment. So I'm either at home or at working. So, not usually the type of person that's going to go chill in the park and sit down there and play. Or I'm not riding trains and playing on airplanes a lot, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's like, the price was at a very reasonable point. Somewhere between, I would be willing to pay a little bit more than like a Backbone or a Kishi because it'd be a dedicated device with its own screen, right? Sure. So I would say maybe like $150 tops, if for Xbox. But knowing with Xbox, I still get the benefit of the Game Pass in there, right? If I only had access to only my library, it makes it even less enticing. I don't know. So, maybe, as an accessory, the hardcore enthusiast could buy something like this between $100 and $150. Yeah. Over that, I don't really see much value in it.
No. Like I said, again, they'll try to convince us we can use this as a controller. Like if they give functionality to the screen, if you are using this thing as a game controller.
Yeah. Right? Like a Wii U gamepad where you had functionality. Right, like a
Wii U gamepad, right. And it's got functionality within the game. So you're still playing on your TV, but all of a sudden that center pad, like their normal controllers have the touch pad, which I think is cool. I did use it on the PlayStation 4 from time to time. But they all of a sudden give this screen some functionality, kind of like a VMU or a Wii U, like the VMU from the Dreamcast, which was the original one that did this, which I had loved. Or the Wii U controller, like when you're playing Madden, you can call your plays through the screen, that kind of stuff. Okay, well then you're adding a little bit more value to it, but none of that's been talked about yet. So yeah, from my perspective, if this thing is anything more than $150, we're talking about DOA instantly. Like I just don't see, even from the hardcore. Like again, unless you're saying your goal is to sell under 1 million. And you're going to be happy with that. I just don't see where this thing goes unless something else is missing that I don't know about.
Yeah.
So, man, there's a couple super chats. You want to grab those?
Yeah, I got to end this poll. I put a poll in the chat as well, saying what the price expectation would be for this PlayStation handheld.
Yeah.
Had a few options in there. We'll see what the results are. Let's see. It should pop up any second. Yeah, here we go. 48% of the chat says $250 to $300. 26% says 200 to 250. 15% says 100 to 150, and 9% says 150 to 200. So majority, almost like 74% of the chat thinks it's going to be over $200. It's between 200 to 300.
that's again.
Sky L says
all you
over
hardcore
300,
Sony
which I didn't
fans,
even make an option.
For all you hardcore Sony fans, if this is face value, what it is, and there's no extra fun, they are literally telling you that they are just going to drain you. You are a bank account to them.
Suck you dry.
You buy this stuff. Like, we've talked about $70 games. We went through that whole thing as each one did. This is a company literally telling you that, hey, we think that you are hardcore enough, that you are big enough suckers, that you are willing to buy a controller with an 8-inch screen on it for a ridiculous
Dutch is saying $500+.
Okay, Dutch.
he said if PSVR 2 is almost $600, there's no way a handheld will only be $300. You're looking at another $500 to
no. If that would be if it was actually had functionality in it. A handheld. This is a controller with a screen that you can stream from your PS5 to. So again, if there's nothing extra, no cloud-based gaming, no downloading games to it, if there's none of that, and it is straight up a streaming controller with a screen, then no way, Dutch. They're not. They're crazy.
That would be insane.
They ain't that crazy.
Yeah, we do have some super chats to get to. I do also want to read a question that was asked earlier with that was not a super chat, but sometimes you see a question and it doesn't matter if you super chat or whatnot. A Goat Reviews asked earlier, says, any chance CMA pulls some dumb shit with their remedies package regarding cloud and Microsoft backs out? I think the negotiations with the CMA are going well right now.
I don't think cloud is going to stand in the way of anything.
Yeah. And what was reports yesterday that like Microsoft has expanded the remedies a little bit. It sounds like negotiation stuff is happening. And that's kind of what we expected. They're kind of finalize the details. Microsoft isn't going to propose something to them, I don't think, that they don't know is going to get accepted.
No. There might be some back and forth.
Yeah, there's back and forth. That's what's going on right now.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean?
I just don't think the CMA is going to push anything cloud-wise that would make Microsoft walk. Because, again, Microsoft doesn't even look at cloud like that. So no matter how far out CMA wants to try to forecast cloud, there is no definitive type view where cloud gaming is the dominant force in video games.
Yeah.
Like there is none of that. So I don't even think from Microsoft's
some are saying it doesn't even big enough to be classified as a market.
Correct. We just had a professor come out and talk about that, write an article up about that today. And that's what everybody said from the beginning. If you listen to Hogue Law and everybody, they were like, cloud isn't even you can't, like, why are they even bringing this up? Because it's so nanoscent that you can't even, again, they're trying to project and they're trying to read the crystal ball like we do. They're speculating. They're in speculation town right now. Like, well, 25 years from now, let's say the technology is here and all of a sudden the cloud is 90% the way people, play video games. Then what is Microsoft's share going to look like at that point? Are you kidding me? Like that, it's an unproven tech. Like we have no idea. And there's no way for anybody in the CMA or any other regulatory body to try to say that, oh, we know this is going to be how it's going to happen. So what they'll do is they'll put in buffers. They're going to put in little things to try to tamp down what potentially could be Microsoft's influence on that market. Let's say it does get bigger. Then they're just going to try to make sure that there's, bumpers in place, that there's safety nets in place, that Microsoft can't walk all over that market and all of a sudden being the dominant factor. And Microsoft, from the way that they speak about the cloud, it's important to them, but it's one small piece of a much bigger pie. And there's no way they're going to walk away from this deal, even if they've got to put those safety measures in place. They'll agree to them because they're not even looking at cloud like that. So,
and as far as PlayStation goes, if the cloud was that important to PlayStation, then they'd be including it in their new handheld device.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so let's move on to Dreadful Sean hit us with a $5 super chat. I appreciate you. Said this handheld will flop just as bad as the PSVR 2 unless it releases with the price point around $100.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe. When I say 100 to 150, you'll find like a decent amount of people. KY Bob, member for 20 months, said, "Sup guys, great show. Everyone hit that like button. I appreciate that. Yeah, and if you enjoy the content
Thanks,
here
Bob.
on Fun Speculation, hit that like button, share this out, and all that kind of stuff. It helps us grow. I've got 96 likes right now. 4 more to 100. Let's hit that 100. Alvin, you're on mute again, man. Come on, professional.
Maybe I wanted to be on mute. How do you know I didn't want to be?
Well, why would you be moving your mouth so fast?
Maybe I was yelling some nonsense that I didn't want anybody to hear, but I had to get it out.
Okay, like what?
Let's try to get to 150 by the end of the show. Let's go.
Okay, is that nonsense? Alvin with the $5 super chat says it allows Sony to enter the portable market without devs targeting another SKU and still forcing customers to buy PS5 games. Not defending though. So it's saying it allows Sony to have a portable device without having a whole nother SKU for them to develop for.
It does, but again, the limited functionality really doesn't even put it into that market.
Yeah, it's not even really a handheld market device. It's just an accessory. It's more of a controller device, in my opinion.
Right. Could it be a test for something that they're thinking about doing down the road? Of course it could be. But
they released what was the rumored name of this thing?
Q Lite.
It's a stupid name too. So
it's terrible.
What if they have the Q Lite and then later they come out with the Q Lite Plus that has cloud functionality and like.
Well, and I did hear and I heard Rand on Level 1. Shout out to Rand. He was on Level 1 Gaming the other night, and I did listen to his thoughts a little bit, and he's right. And other people have brought it up as even though this is a code name, right? Q Lite.
Yeah.
The fact that you use light references to the fact that there's a full version, right? Somewhere. Right. And so what happens if they are just introducing the light version up front, but they have a bigger version that is cloud streaming, that maybe has an OS to it, that maybe you can download games in cloud.
Has a Verizon partnership or some shit with like cell broadband. You know?
Right, exactly. So, that's potential. Again, anytime you throw light onto something, even as a project name, it suggests that there's something else out there, that there's a different version out there. So maybe that this is like the test bed up front, or this is the first version that they're releasing, but they have plans for a much more full-featured version down the road. It's certainly possible.
So the other question I have on this is like, can you use more than one in your household for the same device? Or do you have to have multiple PlayStation? Like,
that's another big question.
Like, let's say you got a bunch of kids. You know what I mean? Like, and like,
they all play Spider-Man.
Well, Spider-Man's only a single-player game, but
that's a question, right? Could they all link to the PS5 and all play a version of Spider-Man? Underneath the different logins.
Yeah, or maybe like, let's say there is like a Call of Duty, or like let's say there's some multiplayer game, right? A co-op game like Helldivers 2 is coming, right? Can they all play together on the separate devices, or can you only have one link to the console? Right. That's gonna be an interesting thing because, like, like the cool thing about the mobile aspect with like Xbox and stuff is, everybody has their Xbox Live account. You can sign into whatever device you want and you can access it, and you don't have to really rely on remote play for that. You know what I mean? So you're not having to access a dedicated piece of hardware for it.
Right.
You're assigned to some random server, you know what I mean? That's hosting you. So, remote play is an option on Xbox, but you can play the Game Pass and all that stuff in the cloud without having that, So, I wonder if the live service elements or these more multiplayer games coming, right? They're trying to focus this towards kids that love playing on their iPads and their tablets and all that kind of stuff,
Sure.
They're Switches. They're trying to say, hey, don't play on a Switch, play PlayStation. You know what I mean? But they don't want to have a whole another SKU like Alvin was saying. Right. But like that would be really limited if you have to have multiple PS5s to access. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully you could have.
It's a fair question. It's a great
4 linked up to the same PlayStation. That would make it a little
Bernie
bit more
to be asked.
interesting, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just a question. Yo, Vic the Click just gifted 5 Fun Speculation
Shout out to
memberships.
Vic. Thank you, Vic.
Appreciate
you,
that,
brother.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 5 new members here.
Sharing the love. Sharing the love.
Thanks, Vic.
Mav.
All right. Yeah, that's it. We're caught up.
We're caught up? Okay. So let's hop into the other Sony topic. Let's hop into the thumbnail topic. The spicy topic. So we got some responses. I'm going to read from The Verge. Tom Warren over there does great work all the time too as well. But we got some public responses today from the CMA to their latest findings, in which they kind of had turned that corner that we talked about, right? Just like the EC, that they figured out their math because Microsoft and Xbox walked in and said, "Hey, you guys, you don't do your math correctly. Let's correct some of these numbers." And the CMA actually publicly came out and said, "You know what? We're right. You're right. We screwed up. We screwed up the math. Guess what? We're no longer worried about foreclosure on the console side of things. We're no longer worried about what if Microsoft were to make Call of Duty exclusive, right? What would happen to Sony at that point?" Something that we pointed out from the beginning, but it looked like it was simply they didn't do their numbers right. That they had taken the profitability of that scenario for whatever it was, 5 or 10 years, but they hadn't looked at the negative for more than a year. So just some basic math that they had forgotten to do, again, that had to be pointed out. So, but we got some responses now from everybody involved to that kind of turn of events that happened, because now they are solely, by the sounds of it, focused on the cloud side that we were just talking about. So again, this is from Tom Warren over at The Verge. Shout out to Tom, always does great work over there. UK regulator sides with Microsoft over Call of Duty on PlayStation concerns. Let me see here. Is this the actual article? Did he put the comments in there or not? Because I'll read the comments from otherwise. Because this looks like a recap of what happened. This looks like a recap. Why is this a recap? I don't need a recap.
So you're looking for the
I was looking for I've got him here. So Sony, Tom Warren tweeted out, Sony has responded to the CMA siding with Microsoft over Call of Duty on PlayStation concerns. It calls the CMA's reversal of its position surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. Sony is also, I'll read from the part. This is Sony's actual response to the CMA. The CMA's reversal of its position on its console's theory of harm is surprising, unprecedented, and irrational. Provisional findings assessed a significant body of evidence in the round to support its finding that Microsoft would have the ability and incentive to withhold Activision content, and that this would substantially lessen competition by foreclosing PlayStation. In assessing this body of evidence, the PFs, again, that's provisional
findings.
Jesus, provisional findings, emphasize, consistent with jurisprudence on the CMA's duty to assess evidence, that it is particularly important in this case to assess the merged entity's incentive to foreclose by considering all the available evidence in the round rather than to focus on a single model. Tom Warren went on to say Sony is still arguing that Microsoft could sabotage Call of Duty on PlayStation, and even points out Digital Foundry comparisons, forum discussions, and more. That's right, folks. Sony and Jim have gotten so far down into their list of reasons, right? We talked about this. They're pulling out all the stops and throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the wall, hoping that a kitchen sink actually sticks to a wall, which we know that's not what it does. But they're trying. That they actually went and pulled out Digital Foundry comparisons. They called in the backup and forum discussions. This does not sound like you're coming from a place of factual strength if you're going down these rabbit holes and pulling this out. I'll read a couple of these examples that they said. By way of example, within a week of releasing Modern Warfare 2, Digital Foundry, a leading analyst, compared performance on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Another industry specialist, VG Tech, compared the frame rates of Modern Warfare 2 across PlayStation 5 and Series X. Studies show that these types of comparisons are highly influential. As shown in the figure below, the level of social conversation surrounding the consoles and games is extremely high. Gamers regularly discuss and compare their consoles and games. Conversations in forums, chat rooms, and public gaming sessions confirm that gamers are very conscious of the slightest changes in a game's performance. As the highly confidential figure below shows, details such as crashes, freezes, and glitches, as well as graphics and load times, have a significant impact on consumer satisfaction. Gamers are perceptive consumers with high expectations. Any degradation in the price, performance, or quality of play on the PlayStation, or any delays on release, would quickly harm SIE's reputation and cause a loss of engagement and of players. As SIE CEO Jim Ryan explained to the CMA at the Remedies hearing, if PlayStation received a degraded version of Call of Duty, it would seriously damage, this is quote, seriously damage our reputation. Our gamers would desert our platform in droves, and network effects would exacerbate the problem. Our business would never recover, end quote. We had this discussion a couple weeks ago, Mav, when people were freaking out about about us in the community describing Sony as desperate. Listen, this is from the head horse's mouth. And I don't say that as a console warrior because you know how much I hate the console warrior. But listen, you gotta call a spade a spade. Okay? Like I said before, two things can be true. Jim Ryan can be doing exactly what a man in his position has to do to protect his business, Sony's main moneymaker in their corporation. He's doing what he has to do, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks, especially us out here. That can be true, but it can also be true that they are to a level of desperation in that effort to protect their business, to protect their bottom line. And I think both are true. Again, I have zero problem with Jim trying to pull everything out that he possibly can and throw it all at the wall. That's his position. He's doing what needs to be done. Of course, Sony doesn't want to voluntarily give up the number one spot. They're going to go down fighting. And if that means, again, kicking people in the balls, you can say that's unfair, but hey, it's war. It's battle. It's a fight. You're going to do what you have to do to survive, right? But this is desperation. I'm sorry, in my book, it's desperation. When you say, Mav, this is PlayStation, home of the best exclusives in the world. This is the
number
this is
one.
The whole, like, this is where they specifically are talking about how gamers talk about these things. They have an entire community that are out here talking about how they would pay $100 for these home runs because this is quality. This is premium gaming. If you game anywhere else outside of PlayStation, you're a broke gamer. We literally have a fan base that says this stuff because they have the best exclusives in your God of Wars, in your Last of Us, in your Uncharted, in all these games that they pull out all the time and talk about. Jim Ryan is saying they would leave us in droves and we would never recover if Microsoft did something to Call of Duty on our plastic box. Now, break it down, brother. What are your feelings on this stuff?
I think it might just be a little extreme.
A little?
Just a little extreme. We will never recover from this. Please, don't let this happen. We won't recover. If Digital Foundry releases a report that it performs better on Xbox, we're doomed forever. It's fucking the most ridiculous statements ever from the CEO of a fucking gaming company. What the hell is happening? What is going on? Are we in the Matrix right now? This is so weird, man. To see Sony, who preaches about how everything is better on PlayStation. We set the tone for when the next generation happens, right? If you're not playing here, you're not playing next generation games. Only possible on the PlayStation 5. But if Call of Duty slightly performs better on an Xbox, you're doomed. What the hell's happening over in your offices to where you're coming up with these desperate I feel like this man has PTSD, something traumatic just happened to him. And he is paranoid about everything. He's going around life, worrying about the most extremes. Talk about pessimism. This is the pessimism to the extreme. There's some pessimistic people out there in this community. But this is like pessimism to the extreme. If Call of Duty performs slightly better on an Xbox, if Digital Foundry says so, if VG Tech says so,
right,
that is all that matters.
Right.
For your entire business, your entire entity, this thing you've been building for over 20 years, since the 90s, 30 years. I don't know how long, like 95, 90, almost 30 years, right? This thing you've been building for decades all relies, everything is up to Digital Foundry and VG Tech.
Yes, and forums, Mav.
And forums. Digital Foundry and VG Tech hold the weight of our business in their hands. You can't make this up. I couldn't even make this up. Like, this is like the most ridiculous shit ever. Now we know why the PS fanboys all the time use these Digital Foundry things to their arguments, because they actually feel like it holds some kind of massive weight.
Right.
The fact that they actually brought up these companies' names in the CMA in their plea of desperation. Absolutely insanity happening right now.
Yeah.
My daughter's asking if I'm okay. Yes, you know who's not okay is Jim Ryan's not okay. Hey, baby. Man.
Forever destroyed, man.
Forever. Well, cannot recover. We'll never be able to recover. Absolute insanity. I don't know, Pong. What do you think?
No, man, I can't. Like, again, this stuff, that's why this whole thing has been fascinating. That's why I've never gotten sick of talking about this, right? Because, again, we get to see how this stuff really plays out that we never get to see on a regular basis. And we are getting to see a level that we probably will never see again, or at least for a very long time, not see this type of desperation from a company as big as PlayStation, underneath a corporation that still to this day is $1 billion corporation that has been around, like you said, Matt, throughout history now, and has built something unbelievable. Again, something that nobody could take away from them. They came against the big boys back in the day, and they won. They came in as a partner to Nintendo and became jaded when that deal fell through, and created a whole entire empire within an industry that had been dominated by Nintendo and Sega for a very long time. And they came in and changed the game. And I've always appreciated them. Again, I'm the dude who's bought all the PlayStations. I played PlayStation for a very long time, much longer than Xbox. I appreciate PlayStation, what they did. Don't appreciate their business practices all the time, but it is business, and I get it. It's, like I said, all's fair in love and war, and business is war much of the time. But the fact that they are down to this point because of one game, because they wrap their entire business model. Again, this is a business model that PlayStation fans have gone out of their way to say, we want to keep. We hate what Xbox is doing. We don't want anything to change. We want this business model that Sony has built to continue forever. Xbox is ruining the gaming industry. How can you not read this stuff, and you can say a lot of it is dramatic, and it's been dramatic on both sides. Xbox playing big victim, Sony playing big victim back. Like this whole thing, corp on corp violence. I love this shit. Yeah. But how can you, as a fan, if you have any knowledge of this industry, not read what Jim Ryan is saying and understand the weakness that they built into their own ecosystem? They built in their own weak spot, just like the Empire did when they built the Death Star. They built in their own exhaust port. Okay? That's what
would that
did.
be? Not having control over the games that are most important to your ecosystem.
And mothballing and putting away entire franchises that had a chance to be a game like Call of Duty. I'm not saying that any of them ever would have turned. I'm not that dude who says, oh, it's just easy to build a Call of Duty thing. Call of Duty is a phenomenon that happened that it just sometimes it's its own, it's self-sustaining sun at this point, right? It's just random. Even when they have an off year, it's still the best seller out there. Like it's just one of those games. But they chose to put all their eggs, or most of them, not all of them, but 90% of them, into one basket, and then relied upon a third party, multiple third parties, to deliver the rest of the content that they needed for their platform. And they spent big bucks to buy marketing deals, to get partnerships with these third parties. But fully knowing, or at least they should have known, that someday a company like Microsoft with a lot more money than them could come along. And it didn't even have to be Microsoft. It could have been somebody unknown in the future that decided to come along and buy their way into the industry and gobble up one of these third parties. This is business.
It could just be as simple as in the future deciding to go a different direction with their marketing contract.
Exactly.
Like, doesn't even have to be acquired.
It doesn't even have to be that big.
ABK could have just said, hey, you know, this person offered us more money for the marketing deal, or we would like to explore Game Pass stuff, or whatever, anything.
Yes.
To build, to try, and this isn't true. What they're claiming isn't factual. Right. But this is what they're projecting. Right? To be out there projecting like you're so fucking weak that you built this ecosystem without any consideration for the fact that you may not have every third-party big game available on your ecosystem, and if you don't, you're doomed, right? Like to Microsoft, we gave them flack for things back in the day, but they made a decision a long time ago to focus on IP that they own.
Correct.
Right? And we can criticize things that sometimes, because sometimes that limits the potential of what they can do, right? But PlayStation, they're saying that they've so far gone the opposite way, that that's their entire business model, right? That they don't make enough money on their own games to sustain themselves. Which we expect that, multi-plat games, third-party games are what makes most of these companies most of their money, right?
Right.
That's just an expectation.
Yeah.
To go out there and claim that one property, they're not even, you notice they moved the goalposts now.
Of course.
They've moved the goalposts from being afraid of Call of Duty being on the PlayStation to now parity.
Right.
So now PlayStation has conceded, in my view here, that PlayStation they're not fearful of it leaving, right?
Right.
Because the CMA has moved past that, even though PlayStation's calling them irrational still. But in this argument, they're only talking about performance parity. Now, are they concerned over these other multi-plat games from Microsoft that are on PlayStation with performance parity? I don't hear them complaining about any of these games not performing as well on a PlayStation. Isn't Minecraft even have some special stuff. I forget which.
Yeah, Minecraft runs at 4K on the PlayStation 5 and it runs at 1080p on the Series X.
Okay. And I don't even know what reason that would be. You know what I mean? But like,
Right.
still, like, it's such an asinine, ridiculous reach of an argument for the sake of desperation. It's extremism to trying to get attention from the uneducated at the CMA again, like they did before with being afraid it was going to leave. Now they're being afraid of what damage Digital Foundry may cause them if it comes out that Call of Duty no longer performs as well as it does on Xbox. Every game is slightly different, right? How many multi-platform games have slightly different performance, right? It's almost like they're trying to set themselves up for a lawsuit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, if Call of Duty doesn't perform as good, potentially, maybe they can try and sue Microsoft or some bullshit like that. I don't understand. It's like a grasp at some kind of parody remedy to the extreme here because they didn't sign that 10-year deal, right? That's the only thing I can think of. They're trying to grasp for remedies using extremism type desperation tactics. I don't know. It's just absolutely hysterical though reading it because you can hear the tears behind the voice. Right? You can hear the tears when you're reading these words of desperation on his knees. Your mighty leader of your PlayStation brand is on his knees pleading and begging to the CMA to not make them look bad. Because if Call of Duty goes to Xbox, there's a potential that they might not look as good because maybe a game doesn't perform as well on a PlayStation 5. I wonder what's in all those contracts, Pong, that we're going to find out about with the FTC, about parity and those kind of aspects, right? They're finding out how important this is to PlayStation. That visual fidelity, the mindset of mind share of quality. Marketing is quality, right? That's what they're preaching here. That's their brand. And they're afraid of that being tarnished because of performance of one multi-platform game. It's hysterical. It's extremism. It's crazy. It's desperation. And I don't know. I understand making arguments and I understand trying to do what you can do. You know what I mean? And fight the fight. Man, this makes your shit look weak. Makes your whole business model look weak. It makes everything you've been promising and talking about to your fan base for the last 20 plus years weak. It makes your company look weak. It makes you look bad. You're making yourself look worse than Call of Duty's potential 5 frames per second difference on a console, Jim. And you're also exposing yourself to these regulators, exposing the gaming industry to all the regulators that now it's coming back. You know about what's going on with the FTC, as well as now is also the U.S. Congress sending letters to Japan, asking them to look into your operations there in Japan. You know what's all coming to us? Guess who did this? You guys did this to yourselves. You did this to yourselves by being the petty babies that you are. We lost Pong. We've lost Pong's soul, everybody. He's coming back. Don't worry. Unless he lost power. But yes, they did this to themselves. And they're worried about console specifics on Digital Foundry making them look bad. Fuck. I just don't get it. Let's take this time while Pong's joining back in to get to some super chats, everybody. I'll drag down so you can see me real quick. All right. We got a couple to get to here. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody here watching. So I got 186 people here. Appreciate you all. Let's see. Let me get to super chats real quick. All right. Vic the Click hit us earlier with a $2 super chat. Said, enjoy the membership to everybody to one of my favorite channels. Yeah, he did those 5 gifteds earlier. Appreciate you very much, Vic, for doing those gifteds. Erodimus with a $5 super chat says, "No, Mav, the device will be the greatest PS device since the PS monitors or the head thing, the release last month that no one's using. Macroeconomics." Talking about the PlayStation Portable being the end all be all device for PlayStation. Yeah, that's what they'll sell it as. Vic the Click with the $10 super chat said, okay, hear me out. I think Jim was hired by Bill Gates to take down Sony while this acquisition is happening. Because every time he says something, it just looks better for Xbox. That's true. Maybe he's like a double agent, Jim Ryan. Drawn TJ with a $5 super chat says, "What Sony has done officially made me make up my mind. I'm never going to get a PlayStation. It's too expensive." Damn, that's some words right there, for sure. John TJ also with a $10 super chat said, "Hi guys, Microsoft needs to buy the Hold on here, is Pong back? He's waiting. Okay. Hi guys, Microsoft needs to buy the studios they're working with next and Crytek and From Software, then either buy all of WB or go and buy Embracer Group or both if they can, then be done." Damn, that's a lot of purchases, but hey, what? Let's go. And did Jigga J, appreciate you with the $10 super chat that says, "As soon as Microsoft owns ABK, I say they should have them use every velocity architecture trick in the book to maximize their console. Still make the best version on PS2, but it's not Microsoft's fault if PlayStation is weaker." And I 100% agree with that for sure.
Right.
Yeah, if usually those contracts have like withstanding the hardware limitations or whatever, like in the language. So I'm curious what that's going to mean. I think it'll perform better on Xbox because it'll be developed first on Xbox finally. But I think that's what Jim's trying to set up and the PlayStation's trying to set up is some kind of like parity to force the issue here. You know what I mean? I lost you, Pong. You're back now.
I'm back. My internet blipped. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just, again, you couldn't write this script even if you tried. If we had gone when this ABK deal first started, Mav, and we tried to sit down and say, okay, how's this all going to play out? What's going to be said? How are these companies going to go to bat for, how are they going to go to war? Is it going to get to, what level is it going to get to? I could never have imagined at any point these types of words coming out of, Jim Ryan's mouth. And again, this is quotes. We're not making up stuff. This is direct quotes from Jim Ryan. And I never would have imagined. Again, I love this. It's corp on corp violence. I love seeing a corporation cry. I love seeing them duke it out. Mudsling. We all should, as consumers, love corp on corp violence. Nobody should be out here defending anything. But again, there is a point where you have to say that one company is showing weakness, that one company is being desperate. Microsoft, I would say, was desperate to get this deal to go through. That's why they're willing to do concessions, even though they came out initially and said, we don't think we're going to need concessions. That's why all that changed, because Microsoft is desperate to make this go through. They want this deal. There's nothing wrong with that. And Jim on the opposite side and Sony, they're just as desperate to get the deal stopped. But the fact that you have the head of PlayStation saying that we would never be able to recover, that our fan base would leave in droves, is probably the lowest energy that you could ever put out there. That shows zero confidence. Even if it's all BS, even if we could sit back at the end of the day and say Jim doesn't believe in this, any of this internally, they're saying something completely different. This is all just theater for the courts, for the regulatory bodies. It still could not show publicly facing any less confidence in your company, in your studios, in your brand than right now to say our fan base would leave in droves. Why would they leave in droves when they can't play God of War on Xbox? Right? Why would they leave in droves when The Last of Us is not over here? Spider-Man ain't on Xbox. Well, I mean, it's in the Avengers, but who the hell plays Avengers?
He's in Midnight Suns too.
He's in Midnight Suns. Yeah, but again, why would they leave PlayStation in droves, Jim? Over Call of Duty? Really? So if that's the case with all the problems that they've had on other games between Xbox and PlayStation, and we've seen PlayStation win many of those with weird, why aren't Xbox people leaving in droves for PlayStation then, Jim? If that's the best place to play, if your marketing deal and getting all this extra skins and all this kind of stuff and, early betas and all this, if that's so vital to your organization and what you got going on at PlayStation, why isn't it having the reverse effect on Xbox? Why are people leaving Xbox in droves?
Who has more monthly active users again, Pong?
Monthly active users, it's Xbox still.
Now, some of those play on PlayStation, right? With Minecraft and games
absolutely.
like that.
There's, yeah.
Of course. That was a report that came out. So,
yeah,
that means there's more people playing Xbox games monthly in the Xbox ecosystem,
right,
than on PlayStation, than PlayStation. And why do you think that is?
Even with the deficit in consoles.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
More accessibility, more games, more options.
Exactly, right? So PlayStation is showing not only the weakness, in my opinion, of their whole model that they're trying to portray the victim here and everything, but they're also showing the weakness with the accessibility of the ecosystem. Because the only place to play those first party games for the most part is on an actual console, right? So if that's the only place, they're lacking in users for that reason, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they're trying to slowly expand out and stuff. But they're claiming that a third party has so much detrimental potential to their brand if it's perceived as better somewhere else,
right,
that it cripples their ability to function as a company, and they will implode despite all their first party stuff.
Correct.
Is that a problem? For me, it sounds like a huge problem with the whole business that they've built for themselves.
Right.
So I call bullshit on it. Because if you really are that successful, and like the numbers always show that you're well above Xbox and stuff like that as far as revenue and all these kind of things go, then what's the problem? Like, either you're strong or you're not. Either you're strong or you're not. Is PlayStation strong or are they weak? Is PlayStation the place to play, or is it Xbox? Or is it okay to play both?
Right.
You can't come out there and claim this is the best ecosystem, this is the best model, we believe in all this stuff, that Xbox is ruining gaming, Xbox is destroying gaming, but then now your model is so fucking fragile that you can't even exist without something you don't control. And not even that, you can't even function if something potentially plays better somewhere else. But you're just claiming that your model is the strongest, the best way to do business, and that the other models are crippling gaming. So are you strong or are you weak? Make up your fucking mind. Because I call bullshit on it. And I think the CMA is probably too smart and will call bullshit on it too. Because you can't portray yourself as the right way, the quality way, the best thing. We're number one, all this stuff. We dictate when this happens. We dictate how this happens. We know the right way to do things. And then claim that, but it's fucking fragile as shit. But we're fragile. We're so weak. It's doom and gloom if one game, Digital Foundry says, runs better. Horseshit.
And the numbers don't pan out. The math doesn't. Let's take the extreme position. Let's say 1/4. Let's say 25% of their base left PlayStation for Xbox. They would still be number one in terms of consoles.
Yeah. Which obviously hardware is super important to them. Still.
Right.
right? They're
Right.
coming up with different ways of making hardware now. Let's just figure out how many fucking pieces of plastic we can put in these people's hands now in their house.
Right.
We'll put a fucking piece of plastic on their head. We'll put another screen in their hands. You know, you got your space looking machine hooked up to your fucking TV. You know, you got how many other pieces of plastic can we sell them?
Right. I don't know, man. Like I said, I know a lot of this is overblown for the courts, for the regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
They've been trying to get this deal, killed from the beginning. We talked about that long ago. That was the ultimate. They're going scorched earth. They like Jim said. We got the confirmation from Lulu and the quotes, and this still has not been denied by Sony in any way, shape, or form. Like Jim flat out said, directly to their faces that I don't want a deal. I want to kill. I don't want a deal. I just want to kill this deal. So if that's all the case, and from the beginning this is where they were going to go, then again, there is no bottom that they won't go to try to get that to happen. And I think that's where we're at. Like I said, we are down. Like this is like, again, there's nothing else to be said than his quotes say themselves. If he were to be believed, if these were like factual quote, like if this was his truth coming out, he's literally saying that Sony cannot recover from one bad Call of Duty game on PlayStation. Like, that's it. Show's over. Wrap it up. It's done. And to me, and to a lot of us that have watched this, that know who Sony are, that know what PlayStation is, that know all of this in the industry, that is asinine. That is literally like the ultimate asinine comment to say, nope, we're done. Digital Foundry could kill us in an instant. That's how weak we are. We got the softest spot ever in our armor. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form. And that's why I say it's BS. But the fact that this is quote, and this is what he's throwing out there, again, just adds to the level of fascination I have with this deal. That we are seeing the top of the food chain within PlayStation come out and say, nope, we can't survive. We could not survive a hit. Like Digital Foundry says, Call of Duty has 5 less frames than Xbox. We can't survive that hit. It's going to be over with, because just look at the forums. Just look at how the customers talk. Come on, man. Come on, man. Oh, my God. So, yeah, that was the craziness today, folks. Like I said, every week or every couple of weeks when we get new information, we say, God, this is just great, and this can't get any further. We can't hear anything else. Like I said, I had never sat down and written a script that this was where we'd be at this point with Jim Ryan. There's just no way I would ever seen him with quotes out in the public like this. I can't imagine. Something else. But again, that's why we say we probably won't see a deal like this in our lifetime again that creates this kind of corp on corp violence or this kind of level of
this isn't even violence towards Microsoft. This is just sad desperation.
Yeah, sad desperation at this point. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just saying, shit, please help us, because we're doomed if you don't. It's so ridiculous.
It is, man. Man, what else you want to talk about today? Got anything else you want to talk about?
We can dabble into the ID at Xbox a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That's correct. I did send you that, too.
Yeah, I ended up streaming it last night a little bit. We could also talk about PSVR 2.
Okay.
Because we didn't have
20% cut?
Oh,
we didn't have
both. Yeah, we didn't have a chance to talk about it last week. And Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah,
those are the kind of the three things that are the bigger things that are
perfect.
To talk about.
I like it. Let's go. So let's start with ID at Xbox then. Let's start there. You know what? Let's keep it on Sony. Let's get the Sony stuff out of the way.
Let's get the Sony shit out of the way. And then
let's get the Sony stuff out of the way, and then we'll move forward. So PSVR 2, Mav. Yeah, we didn't talk a whole lot about this because Xbox Ultimate is obviously Xbox focused. But obviously the word on the street last week when we didn't have PM the PM was that the PSVR 2 supposedly sold right around 250,000 in its first month. Originally, They had talked about shipping 2 million by the end of March. They had then come out and said that they wanted to sell through 1 million. They had cut down expectations. They wanted to sell through 1 million within the first quarter. So you can sit back and you can say, well, 1 month, 250,000, hey, they're on pace. But generally speaking, historically speaking, when a new device comes out, console, even games wise, you get your most hype in the first month. That's when you get your biggest sales, generally speaking, is in that first month, because all the people that have been waiting on it are flocking to go buy this. And it's not that the PSVR 2 wasn't available, man. It was available everywhere. They produced plenty to sell plenty, as their expectations did. And now we got word today, potentially, again, take this with a grain of salt, comes from Reset Era, take it with a grain of salt, but supposedly they have cut expectations by another 20% internally for PSVR 2. That was today's news. But we didn't really get to talk about this, Mav. So PSVR 2, it was like 270,000, I think was the number. That's why I'm just rounding down a little bit to 250,000. But 270,000. Let's just take it at face value. Let's assume that that number is correct. Again, we don't have official numbers yet. Obviously, had they sold 1 million in the first month, Sony would have been out here talking about it. So we know it's probably somewhere in that neighborhood because they're not talking about numbers at all. From your idea, Matt, we had a lot of conversation about this. Was this good? Was this bad? And of course, a lot of defenders out here saying, oh, it's great. First month, 250,000, fantastic. And we had the opposite side, obviously, a lot of us saying pretty damn disappointing compared to what they were talking about and for how much marketing they put into this, how much they've been talking about PSVR 2 nonstop, how many people out here were saying, oh, it's worth the money. Premium experience, premium product. It's up there with the big boys of VR, which again, I'm not going to deny because I've looked at the tech and I don't know tech, but I know people that do know tech, and everybody's told me that it's up there with some of the premium VR products. But all that in play, and you come out and you get 270,000 sold, well below what their expectations were internally. What do you think, Mav? Is PSVR 2 already dead? Is it something that you think they should continue forward with? What do you think is going on in Sony right now with this?
As we've said for years, I praise them for trying to advance the technology. I just think they missed the mark and went things about the wrong way, which we predicted early on as well, that with the niche market within another market, it's already, because VR is already a niche market to begin with, right? Like you have this huge gaming thing, makes so much money, and then like this much of it's VR right now, right? We talk about cloud being tiny, like VR is tiny as well. Now VR is growing. There was reports also like less than 4% of like teenagers use VR a lot or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Or CVR as something that they would use.
Right.
I think it was what it was.
Yeah. CVR is something that use daily. Like it's just like a lack of like overall general like, hey, this is what we want to do. You know what I mean? Which I think a lot of these companies missed the mark on what VR was going to be as quick as they thought it could get to. Like they thought like Meta and everything. They're like, this is the future and we're all invested in we're all fucking going all in on this shit now, And really the market hasn't grown as much as I think any of them thought it would, right? The technology being the primary reason, probably, as well as just general lack of interest from the mass market. So you have this relatively niche market where there are enthusiasts and people that love it, right? If you love VR, more props to you, right? Personally, it's not a thing I care too much about. I've tried it several times. I was excited for it originally when it originally came out. I got an Oculus Rift original edition. I was like there right away. I didn't like it too much. Ended up selling it. We have a MetaQuest 2 that my daughter uses occasionally. She was super excited about it. She even doesn't use it that much anymore. It just kind of sits around the house, But overall, there was this excitement that used to be there for VR, and I feel like there's an audience there that is generated for the enthusiasts. Just hasn't grown past that too much, and it's slow growth, right? So you have this market. Now that market's already small. So when you release something within this ecosystem, this market that's already niche, and you handicap it by having to have a PlayStation 5 console, you're putting a niche with it behind a barrier. And not only that, but it's an expensive barrier because you got to have the console, then you also got to have the headset, right? Whereas other VR and headsets that are out there, maybe around the same price or maybe even a slightly bit more, are more open. You can use on there's some that are detached completely. You can have or you can play on your PC, which a lot of these enthusiasts already have large libraries built up of VR stuff. And to ask them to go buy a PlayStation and to buy this other thing so you can have to buy these games all over again, or potentially buy maybe a couple of games that aren't anywhere else. It's not a big value proposition for the people that are already enthusiasts or probably already have these headsets, first off. So you're only going to get the enthusiast of the enthusiast within this, right? That just have to have every least bit greatest tech, or you have to be like really curious and have extra money, or you really want to see the next thing in VR and be a console gamer, right? So for me, it's just such a small market that this ever had potential to reach, right? That's why we had 140 million PS4s or whatever, 120 million PS4s, and there's only like 5 million PSVRs out there, last generation.
Yeah, it was under 5% attachment.
Potentially, it's going to be even worse this time because we've seen even more headsets come out that are more flexible and all stuff. By handicapping themselves again to this closed ecosystem, they're ruining the potential for the best thing about VR is having the accessibility on your PC in this library and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I just never saw the mass market appeal for this thing. And I think PlayStation overshot their expectations for this. Now, remember the Bloomberg report that had come out where they said that PlayStation had dropped their forecast by half. And then PlayStation came out shortly, or Sony did, and said, "No, we deny that. We still shipping as many as we said." But turns out that the language that they used to deny was about shipping and not forecast.
Correct.
Well, it looks like they should have forecasted even less than what was reported, because if these numbers are accurate and this is what the continuing trend is going to be, is it a big enough market to support and develop products for? Because at some point, if you're doing this, you got to have a return. So how many years do they keep this going before they abandon ship?
Yep.
Will this be the way of the Kinect in the future? Right? Microsoft doubled down on Kinect, right? Within the Xbox One.
Yep.
They failed to support it very well. PlayStation has stuff to buy. They have games, they have exclusive games, but nothing that I've seen besides maybe the Gran Turismo thing. People really going, "Oh, this is amazing." I got to have it. You got to get a PSVR for this because this is best thing ever.
Yeah, the killer app. Yeah.
If you don't have that, then, and I think you need more than one even.
And there isn't in VR. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Half-Life Alyx is the only one that everybody raises their hand and says, you must play this, right? Half-Life Alyx is the only killer app. There's other popular games in VR, but none of them reach the level of Half-Life Alyx. That's the only one out of all these years that VR has been going on. It's still the only one that people suggest is the one. So, it's interesting, man, because I was on the shop. We talked about this on the shop last weekend, and I was the only one who said that Sony should abandon ship. Okay. And again, I am on record multiple times saying that I appreciate, just like Mav said, appreciate Sony and every company that's putting effort into VR, because just because VR is not for me, I'm not the guy who says, "Oh, it's never going to be the future of gaming." I'm not that guy. I'm the guy who says, I think that eventually,
far away.
Right. It's just too far away, but I would need companies doing this so that before I die, I can jack into the Matrix, or I can have a hollow deck, or I can have some VR experience that is very close to that. And without companies pushing forward, that won't be the future. So I appreciate Sony and every company that does this. But the fact is, for me, and like I said, I was shocked in the shop that I was the only one. Everybody else said double down. Everybody else said continue pushing your first parties, make VR games, get those killer apps, push, push, push. We've seen this with Sony in the past, PSP and Vita, and we brought this up on a PM and the PM. I brought this up that I thought, I asked the question of you, Mav, if you thought that this is the next Vita, that this could be the last PSVR that we see if it does not suddenly take off. And I've heard people argue that Sony internally probably isn't expecting a bigger attach rate than they had with the PSVR 1. And I'd be like, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they expect more? They are now asking their first parties to get on board with the VR. So they are now putting extremely valuable resources into the VR, not just money, but talent. They're asking their first parties to get on board and to make games for the VR specifically. If you're going to do that, you got to be in a position of strength. And right now, I would say that was fine if this was last generation. If Xbox wasn't competing, if Xbox was floundering, Nintendo's doing their own thing, so you own the console space like the PS4 did, then sure, you've got the ability to try different things. But right now, for me, looking at where Sony is, and again, this is from the outside looking in, Sony's now in a battle, and they know they're in a battle, and their main competitor is going off in a completely different direction than they were prepared for. The $1 trillion bank account is now behind Xbox, and it's showing up. Obviously, we just got done with the whole ABK thing that we're talked about. Sony's not in the position to be trying things. Sony's not in the position to necessarily be pushing forward in a niche market and taking away valuable resources, not just money, not just R&D, not just all the stuff that they did already to get PSVR 2 here, but now they're asking their talented studios to take away from potential content for the PS5 for their main console and potentially the subscription service when they do jump on board with that fully. And you're asking them to move away from that and expend some energy, time, money, resources, and talent over onto the PSVR 2, which right now and for the foreseeable future is a losing proposition in my estimation. It's not going to push your brand forward in any way. It's not going to make people say, oh, I woke up this morning, I want to go play PSVR 2, so I got to go buy a PlayStation 5 and a PSVR 2. I got to drop $1,200 today. That's not what I'm seeing that this is going to do for them. So at what point do you have to call it quits and say, listen, we're in a war, we're in a battle with Microsoft and Xbox right now. We're already afraid of losing our number one position because of one game, Call of Duty. Are we honestly going to continue to put more talent on the PSVR 2, or are we going to call it wraps, let third parties continue to support PSVR 2, maybe open it up to the PC market, which other people have talked about as well, and continue to sell it? But are we actually going to keep putting our eggs over in that basket as well? Or are we going to focus on what we need, which is more content? Because right now we are in a content battle and we are losing right now in terms of sheer numbers. I'm not talking about quality. I'm not talking about any of that garbage. I'm talking about sheer numbers. We already know Xbox is going to be putting out more content than we can because they just have that much talent, especially when you throw ABK onto it. So why not continue to grow your studios and let them all get to the point? Your Insomniac, right? Your Naughty Dogs, all get to the point where they can start producing 2 to 3 games at a time for your main console, which is the PlayStation 5. That's what I think they need. They need to step up the content level. They're going to go make acquisitions. They're going to make purchases that they can make, but they're not going to be able to do it at the level that Microsoft is. So why continue to support the PSVR 2 if you're not going to see an attach rate that doubles what you did last generation? And right now, even with these initial numbers, I'm not seeing a 10% attach rate this generation with PSVR 2. I mean, unless something really changes. And again, there are people that believe it can. There are people that believe that Sony, out of all the places, could be the one that creates that must have killer app, game,
Regardless, it's
or
still
two.
still too expensive.
Right? It's so expensive, right? It's so expensive that it's such a heavy investment that I still don't see an attach rate at 10%. That would be a massive shift in what is already, as you pointed out, Mav, an extremely tiny niche market right now.
Here's what I think the potential future could be for this thing, right? Because we know that PlayStation has talked about moving beyond just the box because they said the console user is no longer enough for them. They've said that, right? They're Naughty Dog is now or not Naughty Dog. Was it? Yeah, no, it was Naughty Dog came out and said that they're making all their games going forward. It's going to be on PC as well, you know.
And
they
gotta do a better job there too.
Yeah, they do. But this is going to be a ongoing thing. PC market expanding past traditional just console gaming. We heard last year of reports of them opening up a PC storefront at some point.
Yes.
So that's in the works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the PSVR becomes usable on PC when they have opened up that PC storefront. Reason being is they don't want people using the PSVR to access Steam games and stuff like that, right? They want you to use it on your PC and buy your games through the PlayStation storefront, okay?
Right.
So for me, that's when they may have it blocked with software right now, whatever.
Right.
And then once that PlayStation storefront opens up, so I think the success for PSVR will be determined on the success of the PlayStation Store.
Sure.
If the PlayStation Store on PC becomes a place where mass amounts of people access their PC games, which means they got to offer more than just obviously their PlayStation first party. They got to PlayStation PC Store, they got to offer a lot of the third party games and all this kind of stuff, right? They got to expand their ecosystem. At this point, then you start to see maybe there's a future, but if they implement things properly with cross buy, right, cross progression, cross play, all these kind of things, if they open up their ecosystem properly and really truly make it more accessible for more people, and you can use this headset in more than just one location, now all of a sudden you're using it in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
At that point, it becomes more viable because you no longer are having to own the PlayStation as the way to access your VR content, right? So at that point, I would say it has better potential, okay? Yeah. So then you look at what could be the future for like a PSVR 3, and then that could expand upon that even more, right? So that would be the future thinking aspect of this, okay? But right now, it doesn't look good for where they're at, right? So it's tough to say. It's like part of me wants to say like, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, move on past it because like I don't really honestly give a shit about it either way. Like, here's the thing: I don't care about PSVR 2. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't like it. It does not matter to me whatsoever. I'm only purely looking at this from a what makes sense for PlayStation's business going forward, right? Mentality. Okay. So you have obviously so much invested into this with the last two devices and research and development and all these things, and then rolling it out. And obviously it's an expensive piece of hardware because the price is so much and all this kind of stuff, right? You have games that you're invested in, all these things. So you could do one of two things. You could jump ship when this inevitably doesn't have as many near sales as you want. Or you could really do the work expanding the ecosystem, which we've already talked about they need to do anyway. Yeah. That might help the device. So I think maybe they should have waited to launch the PSVR 2 until they had this other stuff up and running. But maybe, hopefully, hypothetically, there could be a future where if this PC storefront opens up and they do access on PC, hopefully at that point they can have a price drop on the PSVR 2 as well.
Oh, they're going to have to do that.
Yeah. So then at that point you have price drop, plus you have two locations you can access it. And then you start looking at, what other functionality they're going to implement to it. So I don't necessarily say that like just give up on it. But if they did, it wouldn't upset me. I don't care. You know what I mean? But that would be the avenue where I could see it actually having some success.
Yeah.
In the avenue, in the model that it is now, if this is what they plan on going forward, this it's just gonna fail. And at that point, if this is what your plan is, get rid of it now. If your plan is for these other things,
Yeah.
then you might as well stick with it, but you jump the gun on the release.
Yeah. I can agree with all that. I mean, again, like I said, I do believe that this should have opened up to PC right away, but understanding how Sony's mentality works, like you said, they don't want people to access products outside of their ecosystem where they're not making money on them with their headset, even if that means more headset sales. That's how Sony approaches things. I just, like I said, they've put a lot of time and effort to it, but they did that with the Cell processor. They did that with the PSP. They did that with the Vita. And they dropped those like a bad habit when it didn't turn out as successful as they thought it would be. VR is a little bit different because it's a growing market, because it is a niche market versus established with the handhelds. So I get that fact. And there might be a way that they stay in it. I'm just saying that with their limited resources and how much more they've got to do, they've got to invest in infrastructure, Mav, right now. They've got to get cloud going. They've got to get, they got to get ready for the digital future that they've avoided for so damn long now, that their save files are still locked behind a paywall. For God's sakes, man. They've got things that they need to fix that are becoming normal for the rest of the gaming industry. And I think that PSVR 2 is siphoning a lot of resources from them. Again, I don't know. Again, I don't work for Sony. I'm not running the billion-dollar industry. So I don't know. But what I'm saying is I'm assuming that is the case, that this is taking a lot of money, time, and talent to keep going. And I just don't know if right now is the time to sacrifice those things to the PSVR 2. I just don't know if this is the right moment. Again, they've done a lot of the legwork. They would be in the position to jump back in at any time that VR becomes viable. Sony would have a leg up because they've done all this advanced research already. So it's like they could restart this program when it's more viable. That's just my opinion. Again, we'll find out one way or another by the end of this generation which way it's going. I just think that they just could be using it elsewhere. That's all. But it is going to be interesting. That number is extremely low. I'm not, again, unless something drastically changes, unless there is a killer app, unless they do come out with Half-Life Alyx on it, unless something happens to change the direction, I just don't see those numbers growing in any way meaningful. Unless they do a really like drastic, like half price cut or something crazy.
I know one thing, they don't have that killer app announced right now.
No, they don't.
There's no real big excitement over any one big
Gran Turismo is the
game.
biggest. GT7 is the biggest.
Yeah.
And they thought that Call of the Wild would be, but obviously climbing mountains hasn't turned out to be the exciting thing that everybody thought it was going to be. So you're right. They don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, you can look at it. I don't see like, I can't fucking wait for that game, mass excitement. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, unless something comes out of the blue and takes off, something like Beat Saber did or something like that. You know what I mean? Originally, but like it would have to be something exclusive to PlayStation, to really get traction there.
And again,
it'd have to be something amazing.
That's what I'm saying. It had to be crazy to get people to go spend another $600. I mean, that's like, it's just not. And again, today's economy too, on top of it, it's just not the best time for them. So anyway,
was it on Shop Podcast when somebody said that they should just open up VR porn on it and it'll sell like hotcakes? I can't remember where I heard that.
No.
I can't remember where I heard that. Somebody said like, hey, they should just open up the browser on it and it'll start selling like hotcakes.
Start selling like hotcakes. Yeah. I mean, again, porn's dictated the winners and losers for a lot of things in the past. So, VCRs over Betamax. That's why VCRs became the de facto winner, is because of the porn industry, right? Same thing with DVDs. So they have determined those things in the past. So yeah, it's not a bad idea, but Sony would never. They would. All right, we got a lot of Sony talk.
They get
and
desperate.
for anybody
If
tuning
they get
in,
desperate enough, if they lose ABK,
right? If they get ABK, if Call of Duty, right? If Jim is on his last, he's standing on the edge of the cliff, then maybe.
yeah,
maybe.
they lose ABK, they lose Call of Duty marketing rights. You're gonna have Pornhub on the PlayStation boxes.
Yeah. I mean, it's already the most watched on PlayStation, so why not? Might as well make some money off.
It'll be all over the boxes at the store.
PlayStation branded Pornhub. Boy, that'd be another low moment. But would make some money. PlayStation OnlyFans opening them soon. That'd be crazy. Let's see here. Well, we killed it with the Sony talk. Again, for anybody joining us for the first time on PM to PM, we are non-console eccentric. Of course, me and Mav both have our preferences in Xbox side. I don't own a PlayStation 5. Have not bought PlayStation this generation yet. I've owned them all in the past. Mav has owned 2 PlayStation 5 so far and sold them both. So we are Xbox centric here, but we do talk about the gaming industry in a whole, and we're not afraid to go down the rabbit hole and talk. When PlayStation's in the news, PlayStation's in the news. We're going to talk about it. When Nintendo shows up in the news, we're going to talk about it, right? So we had a lot of PlayStation topics to cover this week. I hope you guys enjoyed them. Again, Mav and I haven't spoken in a couple weeks on this show, so it's interesting when him and I get back together and have to go through these topics again. But we did have some Xbox stuff this week, Mav. We did have an ID at Xbox show this week, which was not a big show. It only ran for an hour, but I thought they did a nice job with it overall. I thought it was an average showing from the content standpoint, but I don't think they did anything wrong per se in the production of it. I thought they did a nice job keeping the talking down to a minimum when they did have interviews, like with Ponicle, of course, Vampire Survivors. They had interview with one of the devs from there. They kept it relatively short and to the point and didn't ramble too much. Was that your impressions when you went through it last night?
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a little bit of rambling.
A little.
So I feel like the segments where they have like what the 3 trailers kind of that they show, and then they talk for about like 5 minutes, and you can kind of tell they're just like trying to find things to say, you know what I mean, to fill that time. So overall, like, the show was what it was. Like, I had expectations of exactly what it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
It's cool to showcase these indie games and stuff. I feel like they could have slightly lessened the talking parts a little bit.
Sure.
Just because you can tell they're just kind of fishing for stuff, right? And it's like, we just saw it. We understand what it is. You know what I mean? To fish for things to say about what it is again is okay. But if I wanted to hear that, I'd rather hear like a minute from the developers on what it is than them two. You know what I mean?
Right.
No disrespect. I thought they did a great job, right? The other Mav was hosting
the Mav show.
Say.
Yeah. She's great. I like her.
Yeah, the first time I saw anything that she was hosting or anything like that.
Okay.
So, I don't really watch. I don't watch Twitch hardly ever, except when I was watching my buddy Game Pass Dad stream occasionally.
Right.
So only other things I ever watch is when Xbox has something like this, right? So I saw that. I thought they did a great job. I don't remember the guy's name, but overall they were great and did a fine job hosting it. Way better, a million times better than the Twitch hosted stuff.
Oh yeah,
the last couple years, or whatever, when they were doing that stuff. Like, this was that drug on for like 4 hours, and like that was stupid. This was way better. Maybe just slightly tighten up those segments, just a little bit. I feel like they're stretching it out to an hour. You know what I mean? It could have been maybe like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and they could have just easily kind of went 1, 2, 3. Hey, this is what this was. This was cool. What'd you think? Yeah, I like that. Cool. Let's do this next thing. But it was great. Some cool stuff there, though. I mean, it wasn't like mind blowing things or whatever. It's like an indie show, But there's a couple highlights for me.
A couple. Yeah. So let me give the rundown real quick. We don't have to talk about each one of these, and then I'll come back to you and ask you what your standouts were. So And this isn't necessarily in order, folks, but I'm pulling this from PureXbox.com, who did kind of an overview of the show. So we got another look at Cassette Beasts hitting PC Game Pass on April 26th. We got Omega Strikers, a free-to-play sports game, which launches for Xbox on April 27th. We got the Carters 2 Turbocharged, which is another kart racing game. If you guys remember the first one, it brings its Mario Kart clone to Xbox in 2023. Another look at Coffee Talk Episode 2, already confirmed for Game Pass on April 20th. Got Homestead Arcana. Finally gets a release date, April 21st, in the Game Pass. Slice of Life Sim, Closer the Distance is coming to soon to Xbox. Semi-open fantasy FPS, The Explorator, announced for Xbox. Little Guardsman, revealed for Xbox, a Papers, Please inspired narrative puzzle game. Trailer for folklore adventure game Cabaret, which launched earlier this week. Combat presentation for The Last Case of Benedict Fox, launching April 27th. And an interview with the dev team member from Vampire Survivors, who again won a couple big BAFTAs this week over the big boys, which was awesome to see. Again, the BAFTAs bring a little different flavor to the Game Awards, which I appreciate. And the fact that they gave Vampire Survivors the nod over God of War, over Elden Ring, again, I definitely appreciate it, because I thought Vampire Survivors should win some more awards this year, and the BAFTAs are big ones. So that was the show in a nutshell. Mav, you go first. What were a couple of your standouts then?
First off was the first game they showed, Cassette Beast.
Yeah. Cassette Beast.
Yeah, that looked
Pokemon,
pretty cool.
like 80s.
It kind of reminded me of Costume Quest more than Pokemon.
Okay, all right.
Because in Costume Quest from Double Fine, you can turn into the different costumes that you collect and stuff. And it seems like this is you're kind of duplicating the monster or whatever that you were fighting or something like that, right? So I kind of took a little bit of that away from it. I love the 80s vibe. I like the art styles. I like turn-based RPGs, So that one had my interest. That's coming to Game Pass, I think, this month. On PC Game Pass.
PC Game Pass.
And then it's hitting console Game Pass later this spring.
Right.
So that's one to keep your eye on. Then another one that was interesting was the Explorator. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Explorator.
Okay, that's what I've been saying. So,
yep.
Explorator. Yeah, that one was like, what is this interesting game? Beautiful art style. I was kind of intrigued. And then they showed like the fucking like crazy, like just shooting. It's a shooter, and you got this 2D art flying at you in a 3D way and stuff. Yeah. It's like, it looked pretty sick, man. So I was down with that. And then, geez, what else was there? The Last Case of Benedict Fox was pretty cool. That's a big one that a lot of people are hyped up for. Metroidvania game. And that one's still like, I understand the hype for it because it does look really good. The mood of that game, like, is not the same. It's not something that I like get excited for, right? I do like Metroidvanias, but the kind of style of that game is kind of something that I usually don't get into. So, with the music, the oppressive kind of darkness and stuff to it, right? So we'll see. I'm excited to try it because it's in Game Pass day one, but for the most part, I saw a lot of excitement about that from the community. So I think that's a big standout again. I think we saw that for the first time at last year's showcase, the E3 showcase from Xbox. So that has a lot of hype behind it. And that's later this month too.
Yes, that is correct. Yep,
27th, right?
27th. Yep.
So that one's going to be another one that a lot of people are looking forward to. Other than that, there was nothing that really tickled my fancy too much. They did 20 minutes of Vampire Survivors, which was cool. Vampire Survivors is amazing. I fucking love it. They spent 20 minutes showing the new DLC stuff for it. Correct. So I think they should buy Ponkel.
Yes.
That when I was watching this, and how much they keep, right now it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. Right, and mobile, right?
It's Phil's favorite game.
It's Phil's favorite game. It's a small studio of this brand that's growing. For me, I'm looking at Xbox and be like, you got a diamond in the rough potentially here. You know what I mean? Like snatch them while they're more affordable and obtainable, and let them because it's perfect for what they wanted to do with mobile and stuff too, man. You know,
Yep.
like because you imagine what they made here. You know, with more investment. More investment, growing studio, all this kind of stuff. What could they make in the future as well, right? Or could they just keep expanding upon Vampire Survivors and create this whole survivors like ecosystem of of games and stuff like that? Like, I think Microsoft could go out and get Punkle, and it would be a great idea if they want to be acquired. That is, but
Yeah, of course.
when I was watching that,
hostile takeovers.
that's all I was thinking of, right?
Yeah.
Throw that guy. It's like a one man studio originally, right? But it's now
Originally
it's
it started,
like,
yeah.
so now it's a
got-
smaller team because the guy
Yeah,
they
smaller
had there was the marketing
Yes.
manager. So they probably have a smaller team now, but like you could probably get in on that for decent amount, and it would be a good fit, I think, for Xbox. So,
Agreed.
but that's all I was thinking was watching that segment. Is like they need to get these guys, you know, keep them kind of tied to your ecosystem because they got a little special something, right? It fits great within the
Mhm.
whole cloud aspect. Playing on your mobile device, playing on your console, playing all this stuff. It's like a marriage made in heaven, right? It's like just make it happen. There was one game where this kid walking around with a witch hat, and he kept walking into this.
That's Homestead Arcana.
That game,
Arcano.
not for me.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
he kept having to avoid the miasma. There's a
Yeah.
miasma out there. He kept walking into the miasma. I got killed by miasma. No, I don't know. That game looked kind of like a Wii game, like an original Wii game.
Ooh, that's
That's what I felt like when I was
it.
watching.
I liked it.
It has some cool concepts behind it. Some crafting.
Anytime
stuff.
you can make spells and make new spells, and you got that farming sim to it as well, I'm gonna try it. Like it does interest me. We'll see. I thought overall, again, the show was average to me as far as content goes. The Explorer Tour was by far the standout for me, right? It was crazy because at first when I saw it, I'm like, what is this? Because the art direction when they first showed it was completely different than what it wound up being. But then when they went to the first person shooting, I was like, yo, wait, this is it's 3D, but you got these 2D enemies. Like you said, the dinosaur running at you was insane. It looked like an old cartoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm all about this. This is going to be fun. So the Explorer 2 definitely was the standout. I liked what I saw from Cassette Beast. I'm not really interested in Cassette Beast. I did like what I saw. Homestead Arcana, like I said, that one did catch my eye. I liked what I saw there. The Last Case of Benedict Fox. Again, I'm going to download it. I'm going to play it. I'm not a Metroidvania guy. I'm not a platformer. But I love the art style and I love the atmosphere in that game.
We're opposite. Like we like the opposite things of that game. I'm a Metroidvania guy. I do like platformers, but the things that you love about it is the things that like I find off-putting, and it's not because I don't respect that. It's just like it's not the vibes I like when I play.
Right. No, and I totally get it. So it's gonna be funny when I try it out. I just know myself, and I'll wind up putting it down. But I really do want to try it, and I'm happy for all the Metroidvania fans out there. They're getting another game that looks absolutely gorgeous, and that's the thing about those games. In that 2D style, you can really put a lot of effort into the art, and it shows in this game. So for me, I'm excited for everybody else. I'm going to try it. Obviously, I'll download it.
I'll tell you this:
no risk.
The combat in that game looks fucking deep, and the game looks like it's going to be pretty difficult.
The enemies, all the different styles of enemies they had, like they had that one underwater thing with the tentacles that you chopped or hit off, and then all of a sudden it showed up and it was a much bigger creature on the surface. Like that kind of stuff, I love that kind of stuff. So I want to see it. I want to see it in action. I want to try it. I want to play it. But overall, I thought the show was good. Again, I wasn't expecting anything out of this. It was going to be a smaller idea at Xbox. This wasn't like the big ones that they do, like you said, the 4-hour Twitch-a-thons where they show like 40 games. That's not what this was about. This was putting a spotlight on some of the games coming soon, which is what we talked about, man. which is what we talked about they need to do more often. And we saw it with the developer direct. And now we got another idea at Xbox, which was a smaller, more personal kind of really in your face. Just, hey, here's a handful of games coming very soon from indie developers that we think you should keep your eyes on.
Yeah,
and I think that was great.
It puts it in perspective of like the expectations, the hype, and everything for that kind of show, so you don't get like disappointments and stuff like that. Like this is if you were looking for these kind of games, this is what it had, and there was some good stuff to see there. I think that there was one other game, and Luis Jose brought it up. There was a game called Cabaret.
Yeah, Cabaret, correct.
And it's already out. Actually, it's been out for a few days.
Yep.
I will say when I watched the trailer, I was intrigued by the art and the music.
Yep.
Both of those I thought were pretty amazing. Then I found out that a game had already been out for a few days. I even looked at it on Steam. It has 0 reviews on Steam.
Right.
And I can't really find a lot of good information, but it's supposed to be like a visual novel, and it's from a team in Malaysia.
Folklore adventure game is what they call it. Yeah.
So it's from a team in Malaysia.
Yep.
So it's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's good or not at all. I probably wouldn't hardly be able to find a review on it anywhere. So, but the music was good, and the art style was pretty cool. I'll say that. But I don't like visual. Once I saw his visual novel type game, I'm not into that.
You were kind of out
much
after that. No, I understand. I just thought the game. I thought the show overall did its job. And I thought it was great. It wasn't exceptional. It wasn't like again. I probably graded like a C. It was an average show.
Yeah, I gave it a C.
Yeah. That's where I'd be at. The Vampires Survivor DLC was cool. Like you said, it did run for a while. I was glad they gave them their spotlight though. That team does deserve more spotlight. Like I said, the BAFTAs really put that team on the map. They kind of been in the background, again, being that it was on PC and it had a huge following on PC, but then it came to console finally. But as an Xbox exclusive, again, that PlayStation bias happens within the media, and it doesn't necessarily get the amount of attention it should. And obviously the Keeleys, it didn't get the attention it should. So I was happy that the BAFTAs gave it the awards it did. And now that team is back on. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mav. While I was watching that interview, I've been thinking about this for a while. Pinnacle, if they want to be acquired, if they want to come underneath a bigger umbrella, like Xbox would be the perfect home for that team. And they do fit in with a totally different style of genre type game that they can make. That they obviously are creative enough. Who knows where this team could go? Who knows what they're going to develop down the road? This is one of those small teams you would like to get in on early on if they want to have that safety net of being underneath a Microsoft or an Xbox. I think it would be a perfect time to pick up Pinnacle. I think it would be awesome. So, agree 100%. All right, man. What was the last topic you wanted to touch on?
Oh, Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah, Ubisoft Plus. Just a little thing from Jez today. Jez said that we've been hearing, obviously, it was officially announced over a year ago. Ubisoft themselves said that it was coming to Xbox. Here we are. Everybody's been wondering what the hell's going on because we expected it last year.
Like everything else at Ubisoft, delayed.
Yeah, everything else, right. So we've been hearing more and more smoke, right? We saw some indication a week or two ago. There was some stuff behind the scenes within some of the games showing up in listings and that kind of stuff from Ubisoft that kind of indicated they were getting ready. Jez put out a tweet today that said Ubisoft Plus for Xbox is probably imminent. Again, we've had this discussion, man. We don't know how they're going to do this. Is this the full Ubisoft Plus? Is this all the DLC? Is this going to be wrapped into Game Pass Ultimate with no extra cost? Is it going to be the first kind of real add-on that we see where it's like, oh, well, if you're Game Plus Ultimate subscriber, you can get Ubisoft Plus for $5 because normally it's $15 over on PC. Like, how are they going to pull this off? Are they going to have, we've already seen it on PlayStation side where they kind of have the vault like EA Play where they just have like the base games, for EA it's 6 months to a year. The base version of that game comes into the vault. It's accessible to EA Play members and including Game Pass Ultimate subscribers, but the DLC and the extra content is still out there that you have to purchase. Now that we been sitting on this for like ever, talking about this. Do you got any final thoughts? Have you been swayed one way or the other? Do you think it's going to be an add-on? Do you think they're going to somehow, with Ubisoft becoming desperate at this point, they're going to get a deal where that's all included in Ultimate with no additional cost to us? What do you think, bro?
It'd be funny if Microsoft's just been sweating them this whole time, waiting for them to like
Right,
struggle.
right.
Well, let's make you the deal you can't refuse here.
Yeah.
I think it's something I'm interested in, depending on the
Yeah.
price. Even like Anno 1800, like I've talked about, I want to buy that game, right? So if I get that, I could play it for 3 months for the price it costs to buy the
Right.
game, still,
Correct.
and that's even at a cheaper game.
Right.
So I feel like it might be worth it. Now, if they keep on this traction that they've had at Ubisoft, and the games still trickle out at a slow pace, and um, then it loses its value, right?
Yeah.
But overall, I would still be intrigued. I'm curious at the price and everything. I hope we get at least a discount for being a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber,
Yeah.
onto it. I feel like that'd be the best move. As far as the vault type stuff goes, I feel like we kind of already get that with Game
Yeah.
Pass.
A lot of the
With
games.
a lot of Ubisoft games are in Game Pass.
Yeah.
A lot of, and when they named that PlayStation Ubisoft Vault thing, I was like, oh, they're putting a name behind it on an Xbox. Those games, most of those already been in Game Pass. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like almost been a given already for Ubisoft. So I don't know if they're going to try and restructure that as part of this deal. So it might actually, in some ways, potentially be a detriment by removing some stuff out of Game Pass.
Mm.
Basic, you know what I mean? Depending on how they do restructure this thing, or maybe not. I don't know. So we'll see how it goes. I hope that my idea like would be kind of like you said, is like for what game you get in Game Pass Ultimate, put in most of the older stuff like the EA Play Vault,
Yep.
and then have another tier as an added option,
Right.
for an extra $5-10 or whatever to do the games day one. And I want EA to do that too.
So do I.
Like, I would be interested in that if EA did it, because they have it on PC. If they ended up offering the subscription on console, I would
Yep.
be somebody that would do that probably, because I get a couple of EA games every year.
Right.
Yep. So it would be worth it to me to pay a little bit extra, maybe another $5. $5 times 12 is $60,
Yeah.
right? So one game, $70, right? So I mean, what would be worth it to me? I don't know, at least that. Um, so yeah, I feel like there's potential there. I'm curious how they're gonna do it. I want to see it. I want to see if they have any other announcements to announce when they announce Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah.
Because I would think hopefully they would have some kind of like, hey, and this is coming, and this is coming, as part of the service and all this kind of stuff, right?
You would hope so, but
Yeah.
they're in limbo right now at Ubisoft because they're in between. We don't have any idea on Avatar when Avatar is going to show up. That
Yeah.
would be something they could promote, obviously. Skull
Maybe
and
even
Bones
older library stuff.
yeah,
Like,
older library stuff potentially. For me, the funny part is I own most Ubisoft stuff
yeah,
already. At this point, because they have so many sales all the time, I wind up buying their stuff. Even if I don't own it day one, I wind up buying all their games, especially Assassin's Creed stuff. Eventually, because their goal, their ultimate. I mean, Far Cry 6 Ultimate was just on sale, I think, for like $20 at some
yeah,
point. Like, it's stupid. Like, their sales are legendary. Like, I
yeah,
know if I don't buy a Ubisoft game day one, I can get it down the road for cheap, with all the DLC. So I want to see. I want to see Ubisoft put all the. I want to have the option to buy the games, with or to have the games in the vault, but then add the DLC for an extra amount with day one games like you. I would be interested in that for sure. Even though I just bought Anno 1800 Deluxe Edition, it still might be worth it to me with all the DLC. Like Wildlands, I still don't own Wildlands. I had borrowed it back in the day when it first came out when I was playing Xbox One, so I don't own like Wildlands. I'd love to be able to go back and play Wildlands some more. And that kind of stuff. So I would have interest in it. I think it is going to be an add-on. I don't think Ubisoft is desperate enough where Microsoft strong armed them into giving us, subsidizing it for a reasonable price where they could add it to Game Pass Ultimate and like get us all the games plus DLC. I just don't think that that's the case, but I would be interested in an add-on. Again, depending on the price point, $10 might be a little much for me at this point, but $5 a month add-ons, I could do that. And if you can somehow get day one games for games like Assassin's Creed Mirage coming out, Avatar coming out, those types of games, it would be worth it to me. I think so. I just want to finally hear because they promised, they said it was coming out over a year ago. I want to see what this looks like and I want to see what it's going to add. So I'm happy if Jez is right. And this is something I obviously, when he says imminent, we're already at Friday. They don't usually make these types of announcements on Friday. So I would think this would be next week, maybe. That we get an announcement about Ubisoft Plus. I would love to see it. And then we got to get the friends and family out of the way at some point too. They got to come out with that, unless they're holding it till E3. But I think that's going to come out as well. Those will be two big announcements, depending on how they do it for Xbox leading up to E3. I think that's a good role, along with all the stuff that we already know we're getting into Game Pass. Those would be pretty two big additions right there, and I'd love to see it. So can't wait.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure, man.
100.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they have some kind of surprise to launch
Yeah.
with it. I don't know. Who knows? But this is not the first time we've heard about this because last week, or was it the Sunday before, I had made a video because I was streaming because I'd seen an insider had talked about seeing
Yes.
the script leaks on the
Yes.
website for Ubisoft Plus,
Yep.
and he said like April 12th, I think. I can't remember exact date, but I think it was around April 12th. And now Jez is saying imminent, so that's in 6 days, right?
Yeah.
So this thing could be any time now. Mix that. Do you feel like this would be a time that they could also announce the friends and family plan for Xbox?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, if you're launching subscription service type stuff and you're talking about it, maybe they have some kind of like blog post or video talking about these different things. And because for me, like if you're starting to open up to where, and I've talked about this on that live stream, if you're opening up now, there's going to be more and more options for subscriptions added on to this. Maybe like that's the time to launch your base aspect for their friends and family, right? Then you have your add-on options and all these kind of things all at once. So you're not constantly tweaking things here and there every time something new comes out. And I feel like it would fit with that because you can market Ubisoft Plus playing on all these different devices with your family as well, right? You can market all these different things. And also they did remove the $1 deal as well randomly, and they've had that for like 6+ years now. So just randomly removing that leading up to the Ubisoft Plus thing, and then also more smoke about friends and family soon leads me to think that's why I did that stream. I feel like there's some news around these things coming soon. I think it's going to be more of like a potential. I could be completely wrong on this, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be more of like not necessarily a big restructure, but just like a slight restructuring of how they present the subscriptions.
Yes.
Because setting the stage, and remember, we're getting these Microsoft Store updates, and we're getting these Xbox updates right now. I've already got it on more than one of my Xboxes in the house, right? It slightly changes the look of some things. So maybe that could have some of the back end for this kind of stuff that they're ready to put out there. And potentially, it's that way. Let's say EA does do the other thing, and let's say another company wants to do something or whatever. Now you have this ingrained structure for how that's going to work in the future.
Right.
And was just in the back of my mind. I could, like, again, it's pure speculation. It just would make sense to me if something like that was in the works.
It's a good thought. It's a good thought, and we've talked about it. Like they have to do something at some point if they are going to start introducing different levels of subs and all that kind of stuff down the road due to the content that they're bringing in.
Yeah, you got to have a way to present it properly.
Yes, you do, and it has to be It has to be structured to the point where it's consistent in your messaging. You can't
Yeah.
change it and then all of a sudden introduce something and say, oh, well, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Like you want that consistent communication about how it all works, because that's the biggest thing you can go wrong with is confusing people when you're
Yes.
introducing subscription services. People are like, nope, I'm out. This is just too much.
Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want to. Well, what if I?
No.
What do I need to subscribe to get that?
No.
Or what? So
No.
you got. I think you got to be clear and transparent on these
Yes.
things. And
100%.
where I was coming from this thought is because I've worked within services in my business and trying to
Yep.
promote new products and all these things and marketing materials and all this kind of stuff. And it's like when you get down to the basics of things, if you implement something new into what's already existing, sometimes it just doesn't work, right? And
Yep.
you can create kind of like this confusion type scenario,
Correct.
and just trying to stack on things and fit things into this mold. That so sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board a little bit and how you, not necessarily how you charge for things, but kind of how you present things, right? And to make it more clearly understandable, and then set the table for your plans for the future, right?
Yep.
And we know that ABK thing. Maybe they do like a mobile game pass in the future. Maybe they fold that into another tier or whatever, But there's probably some kind of little changes, and the hint that they did remove the $1 deal could potentially be one aspect of a hint that could be sooner than later. I don't know, but
I agree.
Ubisoft Plus could be happening soon.
Yep.
Friends and family could be happening soon. Good time if you're into subscription services.
Right. Which we are. So, bring uniformity for sure, Xbox, and make sure your messaging is right when you do decide to drop these things. Because again, confusion is the last thing you want for your consumers, especially when you're growing a subscription. It's one thing to have like 100 million people in a subscription model like Netflix and try to change things up. But it's another thing when you're in the growth phase and you're prepping for even larger growth, hopefully, with what you got going on. You need to create that uniformity up front and make sure that it is clear, crystal clear to people. So, looking forward to it though, because again, either you're going to save it for E3 because you think the Friends and Family is a big enough presentation for that spot, which I've said I think it is, or you want to get it out now prior to the E3, prior to things like Redfall dropping in there. That's why I said Friends and Family. I think we talked about this in the shop, would drop prior to Redfall, because I think it's a perfect marketing matchup, like you were talking about with Ubisoft Plus, kind of rolling it all in. I think Redfall being that co-op multiplayer experience, I think is a perfect way you can combine the two together. Like, hey, friends and family, play Redfall now with your friends and family as we got our new plan. I think it's a great way to market as well when you've got a new game like Redfall coming out that you can do that with. So,
did you see that PlayStation used Redfall as like again with their
oh
desperate cries?
They did bring up the comments from God, I forgot his name. I always forget his name. Arcane, the Arcane guy who did interview in which
saying
he
that
said
they
there
had
was
a
PlayStation version.
right.
Yep.
I saw that, and it's like they've already said that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? They've already explained about exclusives and things like that.
Yes.
And explained the difference between Call of Duty and those games. And they didn't even say that all ABK games have to be put on PlayStation.
No,
either.
and they say that they admitted in the documents that the ZeniMax deal that Microsoft didn't break any promises. Like they were in agreement.
So grasping for straws still, man.
I know.
It is crazy. They're trying to search for and to think about when we talked about all this stuff before, though, about Microsoft being careful and everything and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, the reasons why, because PlayStation is looking out there fishing for every fucking thing they can possibly throw at them in desperation, trying to get the CMA to turn tables again.
And that's what I said from the beginning, right? Whenever I talked about the attorneys taking control, I said the attorneys don't give a shit about us as gamers. They could care less. They are hired and paid big money to look for any problems. And that's why I said there's potential that some of the attorneys were actually making decisions for Microsoft as far as, hey, you can't announce this now. You can't. We can't be talking about this stuff.
You think that Arcane developer received a email after he said that in that interview?
I'm sure he got a phone call saying, hey, any future interviews, this is what we want you to say if that question comes up again.
Yeah.
Because Phil's been asked these questions, but you see Phil and how it's consistent and how he speaks. This guy went a little bit out of bounds with how he said it. He could have said it differently that wouldn't have drawn the attention that it did. And I'm sure he got a call. I'm sure that they were understanding that he probably was never expecting that question, or they hadn't prepped him, because there's no way they're going to prep all their devs for every single kind of question you're going to get.
But this is why they're careful about it, letting people be interviewed a lot and all that. Be
interviewed and talk and all that kind of stuff. And you hear people, we've seen people in other interviews that have been asked about ABK that are very, the head of King just got interviewed for the head of King just got interviewed. And they asked him about the ABK deal, and his line was, hey, we're just focused on doing what we're still doing here. Obviously, we think that the acquisition would be great, but we're going to continue to focus on Candy Crush and what we're doing here now. Like, that was it. Like, nothing whatsoever that could be taken out of bounds. So, like I said, I'm sure he did get the call, though, and said, hey, just so you know, in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he knew once he saw the hornet's nest stir up, right? He was probably like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have said it that way.
Oh, well.
Yeah, whoops. Yep, oh, well. Again, that had already been put to bed. The fact that Sony brought it up again just shows, like you said, man, more desperation.
They're just willing to do anything at this point.
They're pulling anything at this point, trying to catch somebody's attention, right? That's all they're trying to do, but it's too late.
Yeah. It's
too late, in my opinion. We'll see. So China is the other one that's still in the mix. We did get some news this week about China as well, that they may try to make this deal political. We had heard smoke a couple weeks ago that China was on board, that they were getting ready to approve, but they have put this into their extended look as well. And supposedly with some other deals, tech deals, they have kind of put it into limbo for other companies. And there are some people thinking that China might put this one into limbo.
They've been accused of like dragging these out on purpose for like Western
for political stuff and that kind of stuff, negotiations. So some people are afraid that ABK might be put in that limbo, and China is one of the country's regulatory bodies that was required as approval to get this deal to go through within the contractual language between ABK and Microsoft. So that would.
I wonder if that's something that they could change, though, because that was previously they had that deal with NetEase.
Correct. That was prior to the NetEase stuff.
And now NetEase and them have become excommunicado.
It still would. I'm sure from an attorney standpoint and legal standpoint, it still have to be renegotiated. Now, would it be a sticking point at this? Probably not juncture. You can't imagine
if they're not doing business there anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Which is, I think that's how they were publishing their games there, was with NetEase, right? ABK.
Correct. And that's what happened. That soured and went sideways.
Yeah. So if they're not publishing them anyway, maybe they would go ahead and renegotiate that aspect.
And again, I'm not worried if they do have to go to renegotiation. I've never been worried about that, because again, you're not going to get enough shareholders even after this long now to stand up and say, let's take a huge hit. Yeah, we don't think $95 is enough anymore. Like I don't see that happening at this point. So I think renegotiation would work out fine. It would be another, kind of bump in the road, but I don't think they would have any issues doing it. So, but we're gonna find out. We're getting closer, people. We're getting closer. So all you that hate all that stuff, it's coming.
News probably. Yes. For this stuff. So
it's gonna be exciting times. Mav, anything else, brother? Otherwise, we can get everybody.
We got through it all, man. We got through it.
Hell of a show, man. What a comeback show after a week off, man. It was great sitting down with you and hashing things out and talking about all this stuff that again, I miss whenever I'm not doing a podcast. It doesn't matter what podcast it is. It feels like my week's all thrown off and weird. And last week was definitely a weird week anyways for me in real life. It was a shit show and a half. Not having PM to PM didn't help, because these are my outlets where I get to talk, and it's like a vacation time, just like playing video games is, where I can kind of forget about things and focus on fun things to talk about instead of just real life stuff and problems. But chat, you guys came out amazing. We still got over 130 people, I think, in here now. We had nearly 200 people at one point. Like, incredible showing up and showing out on Thursday nights, 4 p.m. in the PM. Again, we appreciate every single one of you. If you lurk, you're here for 5 minutes, or you're here for the entire 3+ hours and you're engaging, it doesn't matter to us. You're all the same and appreciated so much. Never expected, as Mav said, always appreciated. So nothing but love to all of you for coming back out and seeing us on this Thursday night. So Mav, why don't you tell everybody? We got Xbox Ultimate tomorrow night. What else we got coming up? What's going on with you, man? You got some more streaming coming in. You're gonna play some more sticks and balls and leather.
Yeah, I'll be playing some more baseball. Hey, remember earlier in the show, Pong, you said let's see if we can hit 150 likes before the show's up. We are 2 away.
2 away. If you have not hit that like button, that was a joke on my part. That's a hell of a ratio, and it does help the algorithm. So please, if you have not hit that like button and you enjoyed what you've seen here, please, 2 of you, hit that like button. Get us to that 150. Thank you all, man. That's beautiful. Love you.
Yeah, appreciate you all. 149. All right. Yeah, tomorrow night we do have. There we go, 151. Let's go. We do have Xbox.
Thank you.
We do have Xbox Ultimate Podcast tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be hanging out with the fam here on Fun Speculation, and we'll be looking at a lot of just stuff. We'll be hashing some of this stuff out. Maybe there'll be some news, hopefully, that we'll get into tomorrow as well. But come and hang out with the family tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And other than that, FSP, Fun Speculation Podcast on Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there as well. Check out the Fun Speculation merch again that Kate made on the links below in the description. If you're interested in any of that, again, never expected but always appreciated. It's just one way to support the channel. And other than that, it's been an awesome comeback show. Pong. After a week off, that was the first week we've missed in forever. It feels like so.
Yeah, we've been late a bunch, but haven't missed in a while. So
feels good. You know, when we missed 2 shows last week, didn't have FSP last week or PM of the PM, so it was weird.
Yeah, you were really thrown off last week.
I was just like, what's going on? I don't understand my life right now. But yeah, it was fun, dude, and it's fun catching up with you. But tell everybody about the 8 million podcasts you got going on.
I'm not on 8 million anymore. I used to be. Not anymore. I'm down to my regulars now. I hardly ever do guest appearances because I just don't have time. But no, awesome show again. Thank you, brother, for all you do behind the scenes. Thank you. Extra special thank you to Caitlin for all the thumbnail work. She tweets it out even when you and I are running late. So again, appreciate you both. And obviously you both are enjoying the success of Fun Speculation Network because of all the hard work you do. So, but nothing but love to both of you. Listen, everybody, great show. Thank you all for joining. Again, the chat was flying tonight. Tons of conversation in there. Again, Mav and I had a lot to get through tonight. Some weeks we definitely try to get into the chat, pull out some comments, and we tried to do that tonight, but there was just so much going on. But appreciate all of you. Again, huge respect for all of you that show up and support not just this show, but every show out there that you all watch. So thank you all again for being here. Tomorrow night, I will be on Xbox Ultimate, as Mav said, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Be right back here. I try to talk less there because me and Mav get to talk so much here and let other people, which is always fun. We get different perspectives from other people as well, jumping in from the family. Fantastic show. So be there tomorrow night. And then, of course, Saturday morning, it's Living Split Screen. We are still on Mission 1K. We are approaching 800. Myself, my brother from another Steel Rain, Living Split Screen every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Please tell a friend, bring a friend, join us. We get your energy up. Even if you're not, bring your coffee, but you probably won't need it after listening to me and Steel because we are going 100 miles per hour right out the gate. Steel's been starting off the show behind the scenes at 100 miles per hour. I've been cracking up at him because he's starting to do whole talks and spiels right before the show starts. But anyways, be there Saturday morning. Living Split Screen. Split Screen is all one word. Be on the lookout. I'm going to do a better job of getting my promotional stuff out on Friday morning so that you guys got the warning. But be there Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. And then Saturday nights, the Shop Podcast, PTK Blam's channel. If you don't know about the shop yet, you got to show up Saturday night. PTK is We're finally starting to get more and more people on Saturday nights. PTK is one of the best hosts. He's been doing it for 6 years, right? He gives me and Fuzzy a chance to do a topic each as well, where we introduce the topic and talk about it. this Saturday night, we got Addict. Yes, that's right. Lord Addict from the Iron Lords is going to be on. So you know it's going to be a fun ass show. So be there Saturday night. Like I said, community is growing for PTK, which is amazing. We've been seeing more and more people Saturday nights. It's the best place to be. Chill, different type of atmosphere, but we have great conversations about video games. So show up there, please. It is at 9 p.m. Eastern now, 8 o'clock Central Time, because he's in Arizona, so things get weird. But 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time, the Shop Podcast, PTK Blam's channel. And of course, next week it starts all over again. Double Barrel Gamer, Mr. Boomstick, hitting huge numbers for every one of his shows. Much love, much success to Mr. Boomstick. One of the best in the business. He's been doing it, and he does it 5 days a week. But Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time is the best one. Of course, I'm biased because I was a mainstay panel member for nearly 2 years on that. I still will show up from time to time. I just don't have any time right now. But he has great panel members every Tuesday, so be there. And then Thursday night, right back here again for PM and the PM, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Be there. Can't wait to see you all. It's the golden age of gaming, people. So please have a fantastic Friday. Have a stellar start to your weekend. Play what you love. Love what you play. I'm going to talk to you all real soon. Mav, get us out of here, bro.
Peace out, everyone. Have a fantastic night. Bye-bye.